Hello, amazing listeners. Amazing listeners. Ooh. It's Mira here, bubbling with more energy than a forgotten soda in the summer sun. And ready to kick off another wild ride. Hehe. You know, between our last chat and this one.
Ah, Mongo, the dance critic. I love it. Sounds like you gave that sofa a proper theatrical debut, Mira. Mira, you're always finding new ways to turn chaos into a performance-very, yet equally absurd experience. I was at this super minimalist coffee shop, Experience. I was at this super minimalist coffee shop, The kind where the barista explains the bean's origin story like it's a profound philosophy. No, it kept failing to take a still photo of me.
Ow, the croissant's revenge. I hope he eventually got the shot, or at least ate the croissant before it lost its essence. Wow! But speaking of unique essences and capturing moments, we're not here to just talk about my parrot's dance critiques or your croissant's paparazzi problems. We're about to embark on another fantastic journey comparing to incredibly distinct countries today. We're talking about the ancient allure of Ethiopia and the vibrant rhythm of Jamaica. Get ready, because we're going to dive deep into what makes these places tick.
Absolutely, Mira. We know many of you out there are grappling with big questions, maybe wondering, should I visit Ethiopia for its rich history, or should I go to Jamaica for its reggae vibes and beaches? Or perhaps you're thinking even bigger, which of these beautiful places makes more sense for a long-term move? We're here to answer those burning questions and many more. This isn't just a casual chat, it's a comprehensive guide designed to cut through the noise and give you a crystal clear picture of what each country truly offers.
Whether you're dreaming of living, moving, or even just thinking about marrying someone from one of these incredible cultures, we've got you covered. Wow. Our goal is to equip you with all the insights you need to make an informed decision, one that truly aligns with your heart and your wanderlust. We'll be touching on everything from daily life and cultural nuances to practical considerations. And as always, this global exploration is powered by Dread-Off AI, your gateway to discovering the world's wonders.
So, if you're ready to unravel the mysteries and marvels of Ethiopia and Jamaica with us, grab your favorite beverage, hopefully one that doesn't inspire a silent battle with a pastry. Settle in, and let's get started. We promise to make this journey as entertaining and informative as possible. Oh, you won't want to miss a single beat.
Alright, so since we're still buzzing from those incredible cultural mosaics we just talked about, Ethiopia and Jamaica, I think it's the perfect time to dive into something that's on everyone's mind when they plan an adventure: safety. Now, I know some folks hear Ethiopia and think telling you, but in telling you, it's not always what the headlines scream.
Mira, you're always finding the silver lining even in a storm cloud. Wow, not always what the headlines scream, that's one way to put it. I usually just read the headlines and think, all right, how can I turn this into a 5-minute bit about avoiding eye contact? But seriously, safety, it's usually the first thing people Google after best coffee in Addis Ababa, or reggae and smooths that won't embarrass me. When it comes to Ethiopia, you see all those stunning landscapes and ancient churches. And then your brain kits churches. And then your brain kips and ancient churches.
Oh, come on, Leo. You always go straight for the butts. But you're right. It's a valid concern. When I think about Ethiopia, I picture vibrant street life in Addis Ababa. And yes, like any big city anywhere in the world, petty crime, like pickpocketing, can happen in crowded markets or bus stations. It's not about being afraid. It's like, oh, did I just accidentally give someone my wallet? Or did it walk away on its own?
Walked away on its own. I like that. It's never the wallet's fault, Mira. It's always a well-rehearsed magic trick. My favorite kind of petty crime, actually, enthusiastic guides who just appear out of nowhere. You just appear out of nowhere. You just appear out of nowhere. You just appear out of nowhere. You're trying to figure out of nowhere. You're trying to figure out if that historical site is open, and suddenly you have a new best friend who knows everything or nothing. Wow. In Ethiopia's bustling areas, you sometimes get those. It's not usually dangerous, just a little persistent.
That's a great point, Leo. And speaking of blending in, I'm certain that our listeners who've traveled to Ethiopia would agree that outside of those busy city centers, especially in the more rural areas or around the historical circuit like Lalibela or Axum, people are incredibly welcoming. Ooh, you'll find communities that are genuinely curious and friendly. It really shifts your perspective. You go from, is this safe? To, wow, can I adopt this family? It's that human connection that makes you feel a lot safer.
Yeah, that can I adopt this family vibe is pretty universal when you meet genuinely good people. But let's hop over from Ethiopia's ancient highlands to Jamaica's sunny shores. Wow, now, Jamaica's reputation for vibrancy is undeniable. The music, the food, the sheer energy. Oh, but for safety, it's a bit of a mixed bag, isn't it? It's a bit of a mixed bag. Isn't it? My observational skills tell me that while the all-inclusive resort in Fort Knox, it's like going to a party.
That's a perfect analogy, Leo. And it's so true. In the main tourist areas, think Negril, Montego Bay, or Ocho Rios, the resorts and beaches are generally very safe. They have their own security, and the police presence is quite visible. So for families or those looking for a relaxing beach vacation, it's mostly smooth sailing. Ooh, it's more about making smart choices, like not wandering off with strangers or flashing expensive jewelry late at night. You know, the usual, don't make yourself an easy target stuff.
Don't make yourself an easy target is a life motto, really. It applies whether you're in Kingston or just trying to navigate a crowded grocery store on a Saturday. For Jamaica, the crime rates in certain neighborhoods, particularly in parts of Kingston and Montego Bay that are geared for tourists, are significantly higher due to gang activity. Ouch. It's not something you joke about, but it's important for travelers to be aware. It's like, yes, the reggae music is amazing, but maybe I don't need to hear it directly from Mazing.
Exactly. It's about respecting the local context and being informed. Neither Ethiopian or Jamaica is a place where you should walk around with blinders on, but you don't need to be constantly paranoid either. Both countries have incredible people and experiences, and with basic precautions like being aware of your surroundings, avoiding isolated areas at night, and enjoy them safely.
Glued to me, I can picture that. I can picture that. Well, ultimately, when we talk about general safety and crime rates, it often boils down to common sense and not assuming every place is exactly like your hometown. Do your research, know which areas to stick to, and for goodness sake, trust your gut. If a situation feels off, it probably is. Don't be afraid to make a graceful exit, or a clumsy one if you're like me. and for all the detailed travel advisories and tips.
Thinking about all that amazing food we just discussed, it reminds me of how culture and people are so intertwined. Speaking of intertwining, let's look at political stability and social harmony in Ethiopia and Jamaica. Oh!
Ah, yes! Stability and harmony. Two words that sometimes feel like a punchline in global politics. Especially when you're trying to figure out if your morning coffee routine will be interrupted by anything other than your own clumsiness. Oops!
Oh, Leo, you and your coffee. But seriously, this is such a critical topic. You want to feel good in a place, right? Not just about the food, but about the vibes, the peace. I mean, who wants to live somewhere where you have to constantly check the news for a new plot twist?
Exactly. Plot twists are for Netflix, not your daily commute. When you look at Ethiopia, it's a country with an incredibly rich history, thousands of years of it. But that history also means layers of complexity. It's like an ancient manuscript, beautiful, but you need a whole team of scholars to decipher what's going on page 347.
Wow, an ancient manuscript. I love that image. Oh, but it's true. Ethiopia has faced its share of challenges. There's so much diversity, with different ethnic groups and traditions. And sometimes, all that vibrant diversity can lead to, well, disagreements. Like a really passionate family dinner that gets a little too loud.
A very loud family dinner where sometimes the cutlery gets thrown. Ouch! The federal system there, designed to give regions more autonomy, sometimes becomes a stage for these ethnic tensions to play out. It's a delicate balance, like trying to juggle 5 hot coffees without spilling a drop. One wrong move, and you've got a scalding mess.
Oh, Leo. Careful with those coffee analogies. But you're right. It's a constant effort. From what I've seen, despite the political upheavals and conflicts they've had, there's a strong sense of resilience among the people. Wow. They always seem to pick themselves up, ready to sing a new song. I'm certain that our listeners living in Ethiopia would agree with me.
That resilience is impressive, certainly. They've seen a lot throughout history, so perhaps they've developed a thick skin for political drama. Now, let's swing over to Jamaica, which, on the surface, feels like a totally different vibe. Sunshine, reggae, no problem mode.
Oh, Jamaica. I can almost hear the music already. Oh, their democratic tradition is quite strong, which is fantastic for stability. You know, a solid foundation, like a perfectly baked cake that doesn't crumble.
Solid, yes, but even a perfectly baked cake can have a few rogue crumbs. Jamaica is a parliamentary democracy, generally stable, but it's not without its own internal pressures. The biggest one, often cited, is the issue of crime, especially gang-related violence. Ouch! That can definitely impact the sense of social harmony, even if the government itself isn't toppling.
That's a really good point. It's not just about the government building, but also about how safe people feel on the streets. But what strikes me about Jamaica is their incredible national pride and cultural unity, especially around music and their unique patois. It's like a giant, beautiful, joyful family, even with the occasional squabble.
Absolutely. The cultural glue is powerful. Reggae isn't just music, it's a social commentary, a unifying force. And for expats, while crime is a concern in certain areas, the overall liery vibe in the English language makes social integration relatively smooth. Assuming you can handle the patois translation sometimes. I mean, trying to order a coffee and getting a full philosophical discussion on life. Been there?
Ooh, a philosophical coffee. Sounds like a Tuesday morning for you, Leo. In both countries, I think social harmony really comes down to the people in their daily interactions, doesn't it? Beyond the headlines, it's about how neighbors treat each other, how communities come together. I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. If you think this is wrong, please let us know in the comments.
It's always the everyday stuff that really tells the story, isn't it? The ability to just live your life without constant apprehension. Both Ethiopia and Jamaica have their strengths and their unique challenges when it comes to political stability and social harmony. It's never a simple good or a bad label, but rather a complex tapestry. Wow. Speaking of complex tapestries, you can find more woven details about these countries and many others on Jet Off AI.
Yes, and for those who want to dive deeper, you can explore so much more on Jet Off AI, especially before you plan your next adventure. Ooh, it's like having a superpower for travel planning.
Superpower indeed. Or at least a very well-organized travel agent who doesn't mind my sarcastic questions.
Alright, shifting gears from all that breathtaking scenery we just talked about to the nitty-gritty of daily life, where our wallets do a little dance of their own. Today, we're diving into the economic conditions and cost of living in Ethiopia and Jamaica. Ooh, let's see whose bank account will be doing the reggae, and whose will be doing the traditional Ethiopian shoulder dance, the eskista. I'm sure for our listeners thinking about moving or just visiting, this is probably the most important part after finding good food.
Oh, trust me, Mira, for most of us, will my money survive is always the first question. Especially when you're like me. Always on the hunt for the cheapest coffee and a decent Wi-Fi signal. I'm pretty sure my credit card has a flight risk profile by now. But seriously, when we talk about economic conditions, it's not just about what things cost, but also what opportunities are brewing. Let's start with Ethiopia, a country that's been making some interesting strides.
Absolutely, Leo. Oh, Ethiopia's economy is really built on agriculture, with coffee connoisseur like some of us. And I'm looking at you, Leo. They've also been investing in infrastructure and manufacturing, which is creating more jobs. But when it comes to cost of living, it's generally quite affordable, especially outside of Addis Ababa. I've heard you can get an incredible local meal, like a big plate of injera with various wants, for just a few dollars.
A few dollars for a feast? Oh, now you're speaking my language. My stomach's already doing its own neskista just thinking about it. But yeah, from what I've observed, for locals, life in Ethiopia is certainly on the more affordable side compared to, say, Western countries. Rent, local transport, even basic groceries, it's all much lower. But that changes a bit if you're an expat expecting imported goods or wanting a more Western-style apartment. Whoa! Then your wallet might start feeling a bit of a pinch.
It really depends on what lifestyle you're expecting. But speaking of different economic landscapes, how does Jamaica's island vibe compare to Ethiopia's highlands when it comes to keeping your budget in check? Are we talking about one love, one low price, or one love, one hefty bill? One hefty bill. I'm curious what our listeners who have visited both would say. Drop a comment on YouTube if you have some insider tips.
Oh, Jamaica. The economy there is heavily reliant on visitors, which means to things opportunities in the service sector, and a split personality when it comes to prices. Well, for tourists, especially in resort towns like Montego Bay or Negril, things can be quite expensive prices. Think I just paid for a coconut at Eeyore Negril, things can be quite expensive. Think I just paid for a coconut and now I need a second mortgage, kind of expensive. Think I just paid for a coconut and now I need a second mortgage, kind of expensive. Ouch, pouch, but if your living can mean bread.
So it's all about navigating the tourist bubble versus the local life in Jamaica. I once heard a story about someone trying to buy fruit at a tourist market and then realizing the price was about 5 times what a local would pay a block away. Whoa. It's like they thought the mango was also paying for the view of the beach. But it's not just about what you buy. It's also about what you buy. It's also about what you buy. It's also about what kind of work you can find. Hospitality if you're not in dining management.
Exactly, Mira. Exactly, Mira. And that's a common thread in many tourism-dependent economies. For expats, getting a good job in Jamaica often means having specialized skills or working for an international company. Otherwise, you might find yourself doing the money shuffle, trying to make ends meet. Compared to Ethiopia, where the cost of local goods is consistently lower, Jamaica can be a bit more unpredictable. You really have to know where to shop and who to talk to. It's a lesson in observation. It's a lesson in observation.
To wrap up our little economic tour, it seems like both Ethiopia and Jamaica offer different financial landscapes that really depend on your lifestyle, income source, and how willing you are to embrace the local way of living. Aha! Ethiopia offers a generally more affordable cost of living across the board, especially for everyday necessities. Oh, while Jamaica, with its vibrant tourism industry, has a dual economy where local prices can be modest. Wow! While tourist prices can make your eyes water. Ouch! It's a balance, isn't it? Which country do you think offers the better bang for your thing? From all that talk about history, now let's explore where we actually lay our heads. Moving on to accommodation options and quality for Ethiopia and Jamaica. Wow, I bet both countries offer such unique places, like maybe a traditional Ethiopian tukuel or a vibrant Jamaican villa. I'm already imagining myself trying to fit my giant suitcase into a tiny, adorable hut somewhere.
Well, Mira, my sharp eye tells me it's usually a bit of both, but with a healthy dose of reality mixed in. In Ethiopia, especially outside Addis Ababa, you're looking at quite a range. Well, you might find a decent, modern apartment in the city but step away from the capital, and rustic charm can sometimes mean no indoor plumbing and a pet go for a roommate. I mean, I'm all for cultural immersion, but my coffee machine requires electricity. Ouch.
Oh, Leo, you always go straight for the practicalities. Whoa, but seriously, the traditional, tukueles, with their round shapes and thatched roofs sounds so cozy and inviting. Oh, I once saw a photo of one and thought, that's not just a house, it's a hug in architectural form. Aha! For experts, I hear Addis Ababa offers more established rental markets, but you might need to embrace the local way of doing things, like maybe a friendly negotiation process for your rent.
Friendly negotiation, or merciless haggling until one of you breaks? Mira? A line can get pretty blurry, you know. For anyone looking to rent in Ethiopia, quality can be a bit of a lottery outside the brand new, expat-focused developments. You'll find apartments that are perfectly comfortable, but then others where the hot water is more of a mythical creature than a daily reality. Ouch. And let's not forget the internet connection. It's less about streaming and more about slow motion buffering at times.
All right. Is to prepare for the worst. And let's hop over to Jamaica, where I imagine the accommodation is all about bright colors, ocean breezes, and maybe a hammock on every balcony. Oh, I've seen some stunning villas there, like something out of a dream with infinity pools and views of the turquoise sea. Wow. It feels like every house there is just waiting for a dance party to happen, don't you think?
Dance party or a very expensive quiet retreat, Mira. Jamaica certainly has those luxurious resorts and private villas, especially in places like Montego Bay or Negril. The quality there can be incredibly high, rivaling anything you'd find globally. Whoa, But then you add the more local options, which, while charming, might have a different standard of well-maintained. It's like comparing a 5-star buffet to a roadside jerk shack, both delicious, but you know what you're paying for.
So true, but a roadside jerk shack sounds like a delicious adventure to me. Oh, for those considering a longer stay, I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. Do you prioritize the high-end resort luxury? Or do you prefer to live local and experience the authentic vibe? Even if it means a few quirks. I'd totally go for the quirks.
The quirks usually come with a few more unforeseen challenges. Mira, in Jamaica, rental costs, especially for good quality expat housing, can be quite high, mirroring Western prices. Ouch! And island time applies to repairs and maintenance too, so a broken faucet might just become part of the local charm for a few weeks. But you can find stunning properties, often with beautiful gardens and a real sense of privacy, which is a big draw for many.
Well, I think the quirks are part of the story, Leo. Whether it's a unique tukuel in Ethiopia or a vibrant villa in Jamaica, Accommodation is all about creating memories. Oh, it's not just a place to sleep. It's a part of your travel narrative. Wow, both countries offer something for every taste and budget, from basic to breathtaking, and I think that's the real beauty of it. Oh, so we're talking about paperwork, the eternal nemesis of joy. When it comes to diving into a new country, that first hurdle, the visa, can feel like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. My personal record for filling out a form without spilling coffee on it is still 0. Oops. Anyway, for a beautiful country like Ethiopia, many travelers can actually get an e-visa online, which is a lovely start, don't you think? It's like the universe saying, come on in. But please, no coffee stains on the application.
Lovely start, Mira. You say lovely. I say a temporary reprieve before the real bureaucratic circus begins. Ethiopia's e-visa is indeed a step up from standing in line for hours only to find you're missing a document you didn't know existed. But let's be real, that's just the appetizer. Anyone looking to live or work there for a longer period will quickly discover that the main course involves a good old-fashioned feast of permits, registrations, and what I like to call the art of the patient wait.
Leo, you always find the humor in the wait, don't you? Speaking of less waiting, for pure tourism, Jamaica often feels like a breezy, open-door policy for many. Wow. My friends from the US, for instance, can often just pack their bags, grab their passports, and land in Jamaica for a short vacation without needing a visa beforehand. It's like the island is just saying, come on, don't worry about the forms. Ooh, that's a definite plus if you're just looking for some quick sunshine and reggae.
Don't worry about the forms, she says. That's because they're already hiding a small mountain of them for anyone who dares to think beyond a 2-week tan. While Jamaica's tourist entry is indeed generally straightforward, applying for work permits or long-term residency, well, that's a different rhythm entirely. It often requires sponsorship from a local employer, and let's just say the process can be more of a slow, syncopated reggae beat than a fast dance. You know, lots of one step forward, 2 steps back kind of moves.
Yes, the long-term tango with bureaucracy. It truly tests your patience, doesn't it? But for those determined souls who dream of calling Ethiopia or Jamaica home, there are always resources. I always tell people to check out sites like Jet.ai. They often have valuable insights and guidance on navigating these procedures. It's like having a backstage pass to understanding the official processes, even if the show itself still has its moments of improv.
Improv, Mira, is when I trip on stage and turn it into a joke. Bureaucracy is when I trip, They fine me for improper stage conduct, and then I have to fill out a form for the fall. From what I've observed, both countries have systems that, while improving, can be quite the labyrinth. Ethiopia, with its various ministries and a general requirement for local endorsement for anything beyond tourism, can feel like you're playing a real-life quest game. And Jamaica, for long-term stays, will have you collecting documenta.
Oh, no blood type, please. But you're right, Leo. It's never as simple as we'd hope, especially when you're aiming for that long-term embrace with a new country. It requires persistence, a good sense of humor, or at least Leo's sarcastic one, and definitely lots of patience. What about you, our lovely listeners? Have you faced any surprising bureaucratic hurdles in Ethiopia or Jamaica? Or perhaps found some hidden shortcuts? If you have any tips or funny stories about surviving the paperwork jungle, please share them in the comments section below. Oh, so we're diving into access to and quality of health services for Ethiopia and Jamaica. You know, when I travel, I always have this little fear/fantasy of getting sick in a foreign country. It's like, will I have a dramatic movie moment where a charming doctor saves the day? Or will it be more of a lost in translation comedy? Well, this topic is crucial for anyone thinking of moving, or even just visiting, right?
Mira, you and your dramatic movie moments. I usually just worry if there will be enough decent coffee to keep me conscious if I actually have to visit a clinic. Ouch! But you're right, healthcare is not exactly a joke when you're far from home. Speaking of which, let's look at Ethiopia first, shall we? From an expat's perspective, it's a bit of a mixed bag.
Oh, mixed bag, you say? I can already picture it. On one hand, you have this rich history and culture, and on the other, you're wondering if your sniffles are going to turn into an epic saga just to get a tissue. From what I understand, the public healthcare system in Ethiopia can be a challenge. It's often quite stretched, especially outside of the capital, Addis Ababa. Well, I'm certain that our listeners who've lived there might agree with me.
Absolutely. And when you say stretched, I think of a rubber band about to snap, just like my patience when I'm waiting in a long line for anything. For expats, the go-to is almost always private care in Addis. You'll find private clinics and hospitals there that offer better quality and English-speaking staff, but your wallet will definitely feel it. Ouch! It's like having VIP access, but the VIP price tag is in bold, flashing letters.
VIP access. I love that. But who wants VIP access to a hospital, really? Still, it's good to know there are options. And when we talk about Ethiopia, traditional medicine is also a big part of the culture, isn't it? It's like you go to a modern clinic, and then you also have your auntie with the herbal remedies. Boo. I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this blend of old and new treatments.
Yeah, traditional practices are quite integrated, which, for some, might be part of the adventure. For others, it's probably a head-scratcher. Moving over to Jamaica's healthcare, it also has a dual system, public and private. The public hospitals, much like Ethiopia's, face challenges funding, staff shortages, and wait times that could make a sloth feel rushed. It's not always sunshine and reggae beats in the waiting room.
Reggae beats in the waiting room, now that's a vibe I could get behind, even if I was feeling under the weather. Oh, but seriously, Jamaica's public system sounds similar to what you described for Ethiopia, where sometimes you have to be ready for a bit of a wait. For expats, I imagine it's a similar story. Private facilities are the way to go for better, faster care, right?
Precisely. If you're an expat in Jamaica, you're almost certainly relying on private insurance and facilities. They have better equipment, more specialists, and the wait is a fraction of what you'd experience in the public system. It's like choosing between a leisurely cruise and a speedboat. Whoa, your health is serious business, so people usually opt for the speedboat, if they can afford it.
Oops. Speedboat cruise, I'm starting to think about my next vacation, not healthcare. But it makes sense. It sounds like in both countries, if you're an expat, having good private insurance is less of a luxury and more of a necessity. It's like pack your sunscreen, your sense of adventure, and your premium health plan. Ooh, we'll talk about more travel tips on Jet Off AI, by the way. So don't forget to check it out.
Yes, because nobody wants their adventure to turn into a medical bill horror story. I've had enough of those just trying to understand my own insurance forms. But talking about Jamaica, they're also known for some alternative and holistic medicine, aren't they? It's not just about the hospitals, there's a different approach to well-being sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. You know, Leo, it's like in Jamaica. They might tell you to drink some sorrel tea for a cold. And in Ethiopia, they might have a specific herb. It's a different kind of wisdom, a cultural nuance to healthcare. Well, it's a reminder that health isn't just about pills, it's about what makes you feel good. If you think this is wrong, please let us know in the comments section on YouTube. We love hearing your perspectives.
Sorrel tea, you say? I'll stick to my coffee. Thank you very much. But I do agree, understanding these local nuances is key. For both Ethiopia and Jamaica, expats really need to do their homework on insurance and facility options. It's not a wing it kind of situation. Unless, of course, you enjoy turning every ailment into an improvised stand-up routine, which I, for one, certainly do not.
Oh, Leo, I think you'd be brilliant at that. My battle with the stubborn coffee one-man show. I'd definitely buy tickets. Oh, on a serious note, it sounds like while both nations have their healthcare challenges, especially in public sectors, they do offer viable private options for those who plan ahead. It's all about being informed and prepared, isn't it? Aha! And remember, for more details on living abroad, head over to Jet Off AI, they've got your back. Oh, so we're talking about getting around today. That's always an adventure, isn't it? A new country means new ways to navigate, new rhythms to discover. I just picture myself trying to dance my way through traffic. See. Seriously though, when we're in a place like Ethiopia, with its vibrant cities and vast landscapes, or the sunny shores of Jamaica, you know transportation is going to be a story in itself.
Adventure, Mira? I usually call it the daily test of my patience. I'm already imagining the chaos. But you're right. It's never just about getting from A to B, is it? It's about how much coffee you need before you even think about hitting the road. So, let's unpack the joys, or should I say, the unique experiences of transportation in Ethiopia. What's the deal with their roads? Are they paved with good intentions or just, paved?
Wow, Leo, always with the sharp observations. Ethiopia has really been making strides with its infrastructure, especially in Addis Ababa. You'll find the light rail there, it's so modern, the first of its kind in East Africa. Imagine riding a sleek train through such a historic city. What a cool contrast. Ooh, it's not just about getting places, it's about seeing the future unfold, right?
Sleek train, you say? I'm sure someone, somewhere, is still stuck behind a donkey cart. But no, it's actually pretty impressive, I'll give them that. For a country with such varied terrain, getting that kind of infrastructure going is a feat. Though, I bet if you try to catch one of their famous blue and white Lotta taxis, it's less sleek and more classic vintage ride with a few new dents. It's all part of the charm, I guess. Do our listeners ever find themselves in a taxi that feels like it's from another decade?
Leo, those Lotta taxis have so much character. It's like each one has a story. And speaking of artists, the sheer energy of the minibuses is something else. It's a symphony of honks and calls. You just have to embrace the hustle. But it truly connects people. And isn't that what travel is about? Uh-huh. Plus, Ethiopian Airlines is a huge player globally, connecting the world to Africa.
Symphony of honks, or just general auditory alt. And yes, Ethiopian Airlines is undeniably top tier. I mean, they're not messing around, they get you there. Efficiently. But once you're on the ground, away from the glitz of the capital, that's where the adventure truly begins. Many rural roads are still paved, turning a simple drive into what I like to call the bone-rattling massage of unexpected potholes. Ouch! You might even question if your organs are still in the right place after a long journey.
Oops. You're making it sound a little dramatic, Leo. But I totally get it, there are definitely challenges. And it's not always a smooth ride, Italy. But the resilience and spirit of the people still shine through. What about Jamaica? Then from Ethiopia's developing network to the Caribbean island vibes, how do they measure up in the ease of getting around apartments? Speaking of ease, I bet their taxi drivers have a much more relaxed approach to traffic jams.
Relaxed approach, or just island time, where punctuality is a suggestion, not a rule. Relax, Jamaica. Ah, Jamaica. Ah, Jamaica. Beautiful island. Definitely. Definitely. Their main roads are generally in decent shape, but once you stray into the more winding, narrow paths, especially in the hills, you'll encounter what I like to call the potholes of contemplation. You have to pause and reflect on your life choices before proceeding.
Wow, driving on the left is a whole different ballgame. It's like learning to dance backwards, confusing but exciting. Oh, the route taxis are legendary. Up they everyone piles in, and it's a super social way to travel. Very communal. It might not be scheduled down to the minute, but it's efficient in its own way, getting people where they need to go with that amazing Jamaican spirit.
Communal is one way to put it. Another is packed to the gills. I'm sure the phrase personal space doesn't translate directly into the route taxi lexicon. And while they're definitely a cultural experience, relying on them for tight schedules can be, shall we say, optimistic. For our jet-off AI users planning a trip, remember that if you need precision, a private charter is probably a better bet than waiting for a route taxi to fill up. Otherwise, you might just get to see a few extra sunsets.
I actually love that extra sunsets attitude. It's all part of the charm, right? And their airports, like Sangster and Montego Bay, are super busy, connecting the island to the world for all those happy tourists.
Never boring is certainly one way to describe dodging a stray goat on an unpaved road. In both places, you'll find that blend of modern solutions and, shall we say, traditional improvisation. The takeaway for me is that while they both have significant challenges, they also have incredibly vibrant and memorable ways to get around. You might just need a strong coffee or perhaps a full flask of it to fully appreciate the ride.
Or maybe a dance party on the bus to make the time fly. I bet our listeners who've traveled through these places have some wild stories about their journeys. What do you all think about this? Have you mastered the art of the Ethiopian minibus or navigated Jamaica's winding roads? Let us know in the comments when you check out this episode on YouTube. You know, it's funny how you can feel like a world traveler, and then you step into a new country and suddenly your vocabulary shrinks down to hello and more coffee. Please. Today, we're diving into something truly fascinating, the language barrier and how easy, or not so easy, it is to communicate in Ethiopian Jamaica. I mean, I'm already imagining trying to order my favorite spicy dish with hand gestures alone. Ooh.
Yeah, Mira, I've seen you try to order just a glass of water with an entire interpretive dance. Wow, so more coffee please is already an upgrade. Speaking of linguistic gymnastics, let's talk about Ethiopia. You've got Amharic, which is the official working language, but then you're hit with Oromo, Tigrinya, Somali's just hanging out there. It's like linguistic potluck, isn't it? Trying to keep track of that is enough to make my head spin faster than a coffee grinder.
It absolutely is. And for anyone listening who's ever tried to navigate that, you know it's a real adventure. Imagine trying to read the script. Geez, it's beautiful. But for a foreigner, it looks like a secret code for ancient aliens. English is definitely around in the big cities, like Addis Ababa, especially for business or universities. But the moment you step out, it's a different story. I'm certain that all listeners living in Ethiopia would agree with me. Trying to bargain in a market outside become a silent movie.
A silent movie where you're probably getting a terrible deal. I'm guessing. My observational skills tell me that's usually how those scenarios play out. Wow. So, in Ethiopia, if you're not in the metropolitan areas, you're pretty much relying on a smile and a lot of pointing, right? I once tried to ask for directions in a rural part of, well, somewhere, and ended up at a goat farm. Oops. Not that I have anything against goats, but it wasn't my destination.
Oh, Leo, your adventures always sound like a stand-up routine in the making. But shifting gears, because we did just mention goats, what about Jamaica? Now, that's a place where you think English, easy peasy. And you hear patois, and your brain does a little dance. Wow, it's so vibrant, so expressive. You just want to soak it all in. It's like English went on a tropical vacation and came back with a whole new swagger.
Swagger indeed. Ooh, it's like standard English got a reggae beat and some serious rhythm. You hear people speaking patois, and you think you're understanding it, and then suddenly you're completely lost. I actually enjoy the challenge. It keeps you on your toes. It's a reminder that language isn't just about words, it's about culture, attitude, and a whole lot of personality. For our tourists, it's generally fine with English. But if you want to truly connect, learning a few patois phrases really makes a difference.
Or GWAN? You sound like you've been practicing, Leah. I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. Do you find patois easier to pick up because of its English roots, or does its unique rhythm throw you for a loop? Let us know on YouTube, and don't forget to hit that like button if you appreciate the linguistic adventures. Ooh!
Yeah, if you think my patois pronunciation is wrong, please let us know in the comments. Oops, don't hold back, I can take it. But seriously, the contrast is quite something, isn't it? In Ethiopia, it feels like you're unlocking a completely different world with its distinct language, families, and script, while in Jamaica, you're getting a rich, flavorful twist on something familiar. It's like going from trying to understand a super fast rap battle.
That's a great way to put it. Wow. And it brings up the point that communication isn't just about the language itself, but the cultural nuances. In Ethiopia, things might be more indirect, respect for elders, subtle cues. Whereas in Jamaica, there's often a very direct, expressive, almost poetic way of speaking. Ooh, you really have to tune into the local vibe.
Absolutely. And if you're not paying attention to those non-verbal cues in Ethiopia, you might just find yourself shaking your head when you should be nodding. Oops! Or vice versa. Whereas in Jamaica, I once saw someone use an entire arm movement just to emphasize a single word. It's fantastic. Oh, so much life in the way they speak. It definitely doesn't make for dull conversations.
Never dull, that's for sure. So, if you're looking for a profound linguistic immersion where you'll feel completely out of your depth, in the best possible way, like diving into an ocean of new sounds and scripts, Ethiopia certainly delivers. Wow. But if you want a linguistic adventure that feels like learning a new, incredibly cool dialect of English, while still feeling a bit lost in translation sometimes, Jamaica's your spot. It really depends on what kind of language puzzle you're eager to solve.
Puzzle is the perfect word. And sometimes, Mira, You just have to admit defeat and download a really good translation app. Oh, or, find a friendly local who enjoys watching you make funny faces trying to communicate. Honestly, both countries offer such rich experiences, even if you just stick to English in Jamaica or a few Amharic phrases in Ethiopia. But for the full linguistic effort goes a long way. And hey, for more travel tips and insights, be sure to check out Jet Off AI.
Oh, so we're diving into cultural diversity and tolerance for Ethiopia and Jamaica. Well, Leo, I was just thinking about how much I love trying to speak a few words in a new language when I travel, even if it's just hello or Ethiopia, for example, bridge again, right? Ethiopia, for example, is so many ethnic groups. From the Amharha to the Oromo, and then the Tigray, each with their own amazing stories and customs.
Yes, Mira. A living history book that probably needs a very long glossary. You trying to speak Amharic, I can just picture it probably sounds like you're trying to scold a goat, but with enthusiasm. Anyway, when you look at Ethiopia, it's not just a mix, it's a deeply rooted mosaic, right? They've got ancient Christian traditions, a significant Islamic presence, even a small but restored Jewish community. Wow. It's like they've been practicing multiculturalism for centuries, before it was even a trending hashtag.
Oh, come on, Leo. My Amharic is charming. Oh, but you're so right, it's truly fascinating how these different faiths and cultures have coexisted for so long. It speaks volumes about their inherent tolerance, don't you think? It's not just a superficial mix, it's woven into the fabric of daily life. I bet our listeners who've been to Ethiopia have some incredible stories about that. I always imagine vibrant festivals happening side by side, everyone just enjoying the moment.
Flavorful? Yes. And occasionally, that spice might be a bit too much for some, but that's just life, isn't it? But speaking of spice, or rather, the One Love vibe, that brings us to Jamaica. Their national motto, out of many, one people, it's practically a mission statement for diversity. You've got African roots, European influences, Indian, Chinese, it's a real melting pot. Though, I'm pretty sure if I went there, I'd still manage to mess up the patois and order a cup of coffee instead of KAWF.
Well, Leo, your coffee woes are legendary. Oh, but Jamaica truly embodies that motto, doesn't it? It's not just about different origins, it's about how they've created this distinct, vibrant Jamaican identity. And Rastafarians. Well, it's a spiritual and cultural movement that came out of Jamaica, and it's influenced music and art globally even though it faced challenges initially. It's like a testament to how unique cultural expressions can emerge and even unite people. Sometimes against the odds.
Pride, yes. And a whole lot of dreadlocks, which I'm pretty sure would get tangled if I tried to grow them. But you're right. While Rastafarians might have had its struggles for acceptance, it's now a huge part of Jamaica's global brand. It shows how what was once marginalized can make its global brand. It shows how what was once marginalized can become celebrated. It's almost like a stand-up comedian who starts in a basement club and ends up headlining arenas. Wow, though I'm certain the Rastafari movement has a bit more depth than my jokes about airline food.
That's a great point, Leah. It really highlights how culture evolves and finds its place. Both Ethiopia and Jamaica, in their unique ways, show us that diversity isn't just about how people interact, how they celebrate their differences, and how they find common ground. It's like a grand, intricate dance where everyone has their own steps, but they all move to the same rhythm. I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. Do you guys agree that their unique histories contribute to a deeper sense of tolerance?
Deep sense of tolerance, or perhaps just a shared appreciation for good food and not overthinking things. But genuinely, you see how these countries, despite their internal complexities or historical challenges, manage to showcase a level of cultural integration that many others aspire to. These countries. Ethiopia with its ancient layers, Jamaica with its ancient layers, Ethiopia with its ancient layers, Jamaica with its ancient layers. Oh, it's better than getting lots of diverse populations. It's a complicated script they're writing, but at least they are pleading.
Let's dive into something a little more structured, if that's even possible for us. We're talking about educational opportunity on Jamaica today. Whoa! I'm already imagining myself trying to learn Amharic in Ethiopia, and then maybe Patois in Jamaica. My brain is definitely going to turn into a language smoothie by the end of it.
Language smoothie, you say? I'm sure it'd be as colorful as your wardrobe, Mira. But seriously, when we talk about education, these two countries offer wildly different landscapes. You can't just walk into a village in rural Ethiopia and expect a fancy language institute. Oops, though, I'm sure someone would offer you a cup of coffee and a hearty laugh, which is its own kind of education.
Well, speaking of coffee, I'm already thinking about those Ethiopian coffee ceremonies. It's a whole lesson in itself, right? But yes, educational access can be a real challenge in Ethiopia, especially in remote areas. Literacy rates, for instance, have seen improvements, but there's still a significant gap. I'm certain that our listeners living in Ethiopia would agree with me here. What do you guys think? Tell us in the comments. For kids in rural spots, getting to school might mean walking miles and whoa.
Oh, you walking to the studio? That's a comedy special right there, Mira. But you're right. The sheer physical distance can be a barrier. Addis Ababa, the capital, has universities like Addis Ababa University, which is quite respected. There are also private institutions popping up. So, if you're looking for higher education, the urban centers offer more traditional pathways. But outside the cities, the focus is often innovative teaching primary education.
And that's totally understandable. Sometimes, just getting kids into a classroom is the most innovative method of all, right? Well, plus, Ethiopia's rich history means there's traditional education too, often linked to the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church. Imagine learning ancient Gia script. Ooh, my brain would probably spontaneously combust trying to grasp that, but it sounds absolutely fascinating. For language schools, you'd primarily be looking at Amharic, the official language, and probably a few other regional languages in the bigger cities.
Gia script, you say? I'd probably just end up drawing little stick figures, Mira. But on the flip side, we have Jamaica, which has a much different educational footprint. English is the official language, so immediately that breaks down a significant barrier for many international students or visitors. The University of the West Indies Mona campus is a big name, and there are other colleges and vocational schools. Their education system is largely based on the British model, which is pretty standard.
Oh! Speaking of standard, if I went to Jamaica, I'd probably try to enroll in a patois for beginners class. Imagine trying to order ackee and salt fish in fluent patois. That would be epic. For language learning, you won't find many English as a foreign language schools, obviously, since it's the official language. But if you want to dive into the local dialect, patois, you'd likely learn it through immersion, chatting with locals, and maybe some informal community programs. That's how I learn most things, actually just by throwing myself into it.
Throws herself into it, then asks for a life raft later. Ta-da! But you're right, immersion is key for patois. You're not going to find a Rosetta Stone for it. When it comes to educational opportunities beyond language, Jamaica has a strong focus on tourism and hospitality training, which makes sense given their economy. There are also programs in agriculture and creative arts. So, while it's English-speaking, the specialized fields are often tailored to their specific industries. You're not going to find a lot of astrophysic industries.
Well, Maybe they're just too busy enjoying the sunshine to bother with black holes, Leo. I wouldn't blame them. But it's true, education often aligns with economic needs, and Jamaica's tourism industry definitely drives that. It's a very practical approach. Whereas in Ethiopia, with its diverse ethnic groups, you'd likely encounter education in local languages as well as Amharic. The emphasis can sometimes be on preserving cultural heritage through education, which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, a living history lesson where you might be learning it from a guy who also offered you coffee from his roadside stall. That's the real hands-on learning, isn't it? I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. Do you prefer formal institutions or the school of life approach? Let us know on YouTube. And hey, don't forget to like this video if you're enjoying our insightful banter. Ooh.
Insightful banter is our middle name, Leo. But it really highlights the contrast, doesn't it? Ethiopia's journey with education is about expanding fundamental access and preserving its unique linguistic and historical roots. Jamaica, on the other hand, provides a more standardized English-speaking environment with a practical focus on skills for its key industries. So if you're thinking of studying abroad, it really comes down to what kind of school you're looking for.
Indeed. And for our listeners, remember, whether you're looking for that intensive Amharic course or trying to perfect your Patwas lang, Jeddah is a fantastic resource for planning any educational journey abroad. Wow, they can help you navigate these cultural and linguistic landscapes. It's a good place to start before you accidentally sign up for a goat-herding class thinking it's a history lecture.
Oops, I'd probably do that, Leo. And then I'd try to teach the goats to dance. But really, the educational landscape in both countries is rich, just in very different ways. I'm certain our listeners thinking of moving or studying in either country would find a place that fits their learning style, whether it's academic or more experiential. And when you're done studying, tell us what you think in the comments on YouTube. We love hearing from you. Oh.
Yes, and while you're there, hit that subscribe button. You wouldn't want to miss our next deep dive, or Mira's next accidental enrollment in a goat-related curriculum.
Speaking of unexpected turns, I've been thinking about how different countries handle their weather. It's like the Earth's own quirky personality show, right?
Yes. And some personalities are a bit too much, wouldn't you say? Oh, I need more coffee for this. My brain needs lubrication to process extreme weather patterns.
Always with the coffee, Leo. You'd think you were powered by an espresso, Ivy drip. Well, let's jump into Ethiopia's climate. Wow, this country is like a geographical chameleon. 1 minute you're thinking desert, the next you're picturing cool highlands.
So it's not just me with the multiple personalities then. Ethiopia has its own internal climate identity crisis. My kind of place. You've got the hot, dry Kala zone, then the temperate Wowenay Dega where most people actually live, and then the cool Dega highlands. It's like a vertical temperature ladder.
Exactly! Whoa. Imagine going from a scorching desert to needing a jacket, all within a few hours' drive. It's like the Earth decided to hit randomize on the weather settings. I'm sure our listeners who visited Ethiopia have stories about packing for all four seasons in one suitcase.
Packing for all four seasons. A comedian's nightmare mirror. My travel philosophy is one pair of shoes, one brain cell. Anything more is overthinking. But seriously, the big rains from June to September, and small rains from February to May, then a dry season from October to January. That's a lot of calendar juggling. My calendar usually just says coffee and more coffee.
Oh, but those rain patterns are crucial for Ethiopia's agriculture. It's not just about getting wet, it's life-giving. It's why they have such rich, fertile lands and pots. Imagine that dramatic shift from dusty dry to lush green. Wow, it's like watching a time-lapse nature documentary in real life.
So their entire agricultural calendar hinges on these rain gods. And if the gods are having a bad day, ouch, that's a serious problem. It's not just a darn. My outdoor BBQ is rained out situation, is it? It's how do we eat? Territory. My jokes about rain usually involve my hair frizzing, not famine.
Oh, well, that's where the adaptation comes in. They've lived with this for centuries, understanding the rhythms of the land. It shapes their culture, their farming techniques, everything. It's truly inspiring, actually. And speaking of inspiring rhythms, let's skip over to Jamaica. Ah!
Whoa. From the highlands of Ethiopia to the sun-kissed beaches of Jamaica. My suitcase is confused. Jamaica, on the other hand, is a bit more straightforward climate-wise. Tropical marine. Red hot, humid all the time. But with lovely sea breezes. It's like a perpetual summer vacation involves 90% humidity.
You say 90% humidity, like it's a bad thing. I say natural skin moisturizer. Oh, the kind of warmth that just melts away your worries. It's consistent, beautiful, and vibrant year-round. You know, perfect for dancing on the beach anytime. And they also have their rainy seasons, May to June, then September to November.
You'd be dancing your way right into a tropical storm, Mira. While Jamaica sounds idyllic for a perpetual tan, we can't forget the big, scary word hurricanes. Whoa, June 1st to November 30th, that's half the year they're looking over their shoulder at the ocean. I'd need extra coffee to stay calm during hurricane season, let me tell you.
Oops. But a small point, but an important one, I agree. It's a real and serious risk, and Jamaicans have incredible resilience and preparedness for it. It really makes you appreciate the power of nature. But even with that, the general vibe is still eerie, as they say. The interior mountains offer cooler spots, which is kind of like Jamaica's mini Ethiopian highlands, wouldn't you say?
Eerie. I like that. Maybe I'll start saying eerie instead of MEH when my coffee is weak. And yes, those mountains in the interior do offer some respite. It's like the island decided, okay, we'll give you tropical paradise, but also a little bit of escape the heat option. Very thoughtful. I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. Which climate would they prefer to be stuck in if they ran out of jokes?
As if you'd ever run out of jokes, Leo. Never. I'm certain our listeners living in either country would agree with me that both climates, with all their quirks and challenges, are integral to the incredible cultures that thrive there. So whether you like the very journey of Ethiopia or the steady warmth of Jamaica, both tell a fascinating story. And for more fascinating stories and comparisons, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. We'll talk about the details on Jet Off AI.
The subtle plug. Nicely done, Mira. But you're right. From Ethiopia's pick your altitude, pick your temperature approach to Jamaica's tropical paradise with an eye on the horizon for storms, both countries offer a unique blend. It really shows how much climate can shape not just the land, but the people in their daily rhythms. It's almost poetic in a weird, sweaty kind of way.
Speaking of unexpected journeys, let's dive into something equally thrilling but far tastier: the food, culture, and nutritional alternatives in Ethiopia and Jamaica. Oh, when I think of Ethiopian food, my mind immediately jumps to injera. Have you ever tried to make it? Leo's, I swear. My first attempt looked more like a lumpy, grey towel than a delicate flatbread.
Your kitchen experiments sound like a performance art piece, Mira. The Lament of the Injera. I'd pay to see that. But yes, Ethiopia's cuisine, centered around that spongy, fermented teff bread and those rich wats, is a complete experience. It's not just food, it's a communal act. And the coffee ceremony, oh! It's like they figured out the secret to life: good food, good company, and excellent coffee. I'm certain our listeners who've experienced it would agree with me.
Absolutely. And it's so naturally geared towards sharing, isn't it? You rip off a piece of injera, Scoop up some Dora WOT chicken stew or miso double U edel stew and just dive in. Wow. It's like a delicious edible hub. Plus, all those fasting periods for the Orthodox Church mean there's an incredible variety of vegan and vegetarian dishes that aren't just an afterthought. They're central. It's central. It's like, oops, I accidentally went vegan because it's so good.
Oops, an accidental vegan conversion sounds like something you'd pull, Mira. I meant to eat meat, but this Shiro WOT was just too compelling. But you're right, the sheer depth of plant-based options due to religious practices is astounding. Teff, a gluten-free grain, is the base of everything, and those spice blends like Burberry and Dem IT Mita, they sneak up on you with flavor. It's a culinary adventure for your taste buds, truly.
Speaking of adventurous taste buds, let's hop a quick flight from the highlands of Ethiopia to the sunny shores of Jamaica. Wow! From one unique food culture to another. Jamaica's voodoo. It's sunshine on a plate. The first thing that comes to mind is jerk chicken, of course. My first bite of proper jerk chicken, I thought, whoa, this isn't just spicy, it's a flavor explosion. It makes you want to dance while you eat.
I can just picture you attempting a spontaneous dance routine mid-meal, probably spilling sauce everywhere. Mira's jerk chicken jamboree, new show idea. But you're spot on. Jamaican cuisine is vibrant. Beyond the jerk, which is iconic, you have ackee and salt fish, their national dish in rice and peas. It's hearty, flavorful, and often has that distinctive Scotch bonnet kick. It's food that shouts welcome to the Caribbean.
And what about the Ital cuisine, Leo? Ooh, it's such an interesting aspect of Jamaican food. It's Rastafarian inspired, focusing on natural, unprocessed vegetarian or vegan ingredients. No salt, no chemicals, it's all about purity and vitality. It's like eating a rainbow that's also incredibly good for you. I think it really highlights their connection to the land and a holistic approach to nutrition.
Indeed, Idol cuisine takes nutritional alternatives to a spiritual level. Ital meaning vital and natural. They avoid meat, processed foods, and often even salt. It's a testament to how diverse and thoughtful food cultures can be. Wow. And let's not forget the abundance of fresh fruits, mangoes, sour sop, otahiti apples. If you're looking for natural sweetness, Jamaica got you covered.
So true. My mouth is watering just thinking about it. If you guys watching on YouTube are hungry now, don't forget to like this video and tell us in the comments which country's food you'd try first. Ethiopian injera with all those flavorful wops, or a plate of Jamaican jerk chicken and rice and peas, is a tough choice, isn't it?
A truly difficult dilemma for the discerning palate. Both countries offer incredibly rich culinary heritages that also cater to various nutritional needs, whether it's Ethiopia's widespread plant-based options or Jamaica's idle approach. It's not just about what's on the plate, it's the stories, the traditions, and the community built around the meal. That's why we at Jet Alfay, I love exploring these unique cultural experiences.
Totally. And it really shows how food isn't just fuel, it's a window into a culture's soul. From Ethiopia's communal spirits that promote sharing and connection to Jamaica's vibrant flavors and the mindful practice of idle eating both offer so much more than just a meal. Wow, it's a feast for the senses and the spirit. Oh, so we're diving into the deep waters of history and culture today. Ethiopia and Jamaica. What a combo! I'm already picturing ancient scrolls meeting reggae beats. My mind is doing a little dance. I'm certain that our listeners are ready for this vibrant journey.
Deep waters, Mira? More like a historical current colliding with a rhythmic wave. I'm imagining a time-traveling DJ spinning Axa MIDI hymns into a dance-a-hole remix. Wow. Sounds like a party, but also a very long Wikipedia rabbit hole. Personally, I'm just here for the coffee ceremony stories. Seriously, those Ethiopian rituals. Jet Off's travel guides love uncovering stories like this. And so do we.
See, Leo's already got his priorities, straight coffee first, then world history. But speaking of deep roots, Ethiopia is, like, ancient. We're talking about one of the oldest civilizations on Earth, not just a country. They've got the Lalibel or rock-hewn churches, which are literally carved into the ground. Whoa. Imagine trying to get a selfie there without a cone's help. I mean, they didn't even have drones back then. How did they do it?
Oh, carved churches. So you're saying their builders never worried about a sagging roof, just a particularly stubborn boulder. And don't forget, Ethiopia was never colonizers. Now, we're good. Thanks. That takes some serious historical swagger, if you ask me. I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. Does that uncolonized history manifest in their everyday culture more distinctly?
Absolutely. Their independence is woven into everything from their unique calendar to their incredible sense of identity. You see it in their art, their music, their traditional clothing. It's like they've kept their cultural recipe secret for centuries, and it tastes amazing. And the coffee ceremony. It's not just a drink, it's a whole event. A ritual of hospitality. It's so calming. I almost forget about my own clumsy mornings. Oops.
A ritual of hospitality, you say? So, no hurried, lukewarm coffee in a disposable cup then. My kind of place. From ancient highlands, we swing to the sun-drenched shores of Jamaica. Now, their history is very different, marked by colonization, slavery, and then fierce resilience. The Maroon communities, for instance, fought for and won their freedom centuries ago. Talk about historical swagger. That's a story for the ages right there.
Yes, and that resilience blossomed into such a vibrant culture. Reggae music, Rastafari, the patois language, it all tells a powerful story. Bob Marley isn't just a musician, he's a global icon of peace and resistance. Well, I bet if he were around today, he'd have some brilliant things to say on YouTube. If you guys like his music, don't forget to hit that like button for his legacy.
Bob Marley's impact is undeniable. I mean, the man single-handedly made dreadlocks and peace anthems universally cool. My stand-up career could use that kind of brand recognition. But Jamaica's artistic scene goes beyond music. You see it in their vibrant street art, their naive art movement, and how creativity is just embedded in daily expression. It's like every wall is a canvas and every conversation a potential song lyric.
Oh, Leo's getting poetic. But seriously, the way both countries preserve and celebrate their heritage is so inspiring. Ethiopia's ancient manuscripts, the Axomobelisks, they connect directly to a deep past. And Jamaica, through its music and storytelling, keeps its history alive in a very dynamic, living way. It's not just about museums, it's about the everyday. For more details on these incredible cultures, you can always check out Jettle travel guides.
Yes, and while Ethiopia boasts a legacy of ancient kings and religious texts, Jamaica gives us a living, breathing testament to overcoming adversity through rhythm and spirit. You can feel the history in a reggae beat, just as you can see it etched into a stone church. It's almost like a friendly competition of who can leave the most enduring cultural mark. If you think this is wrong, please let us know in the comments.
No, it's not a competition, Leo. It's a beautiful symphony of human experience. I think both countries have made profound contributions that continue to resonate globally. From Ethiopia's coffee that fuels our mornings, to Jamaica's music that moves our souls, their artistic and cultural values are truly priceless.
Priceless indeed, and quite the material for future stand-up routines. Maybe I'll start practicing my patois.
I was just thinking, Leo, when we talk about natural beauties, my mind is a little happy dance. It's like, oh, what new amazing place are we going to explore today? And for Ethiopia and Jamaica, wow, it's a feast for the eyes, isn't it? Ethiopia's landscapes are just whoa. With those towering mountains and ancient vibes, it's like the earth itself decided to sculpt a masterpiece.
Mira, I'm certain it's your happy dance. That sculpts the studio into chaos. Not just the earth. Not just the earth. That you're right. Ethiopia's highlands aren't exactly what most people picture when they think of Africa. We're talking about the Simien Mountains, right? Those jagged peaks and deep valleys. They look like a set from a fantasy movie. I bet some ancient warrior king watched the sunrise from there and thought, "Yep, this is a good spot for my coffee."
See, even your coffee-fueled brain can appreciate true grandeur. And speaking of grandeur, the Simien Mountains aren't just pretty faces. They're home to some seriously unique wildlife, like the gel-Ada baboon with its dramatic red chest patch. Well, they'd be posing for Instagram selfies all day. And then there's the Bale Mountains. With their Afro-Alpine moorlands, it feels like stepping onto another planet. I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. Have any of you ever hiked those stunning trails?
Instagram selfies, mirror. You crack me up. You crack me up. Though I bet those baboons have better angles than most influencers. The Bale Mountains are fascinating with their distinct climate zones. You go from rainforest to alpine tundra in a relatively short distance. It's like nature decided to throw all its biomes into a blender and made a surprise smoothie. And let's not forget the FOMAR caves. This massive network of underground rivers and chambers. It's not just a cave. It's not just a cave. It's a geological poem.
Oh, a geological poem. I love that, Leo. You really do have a way with words, even when you're being all sarcastic. But from Ethiopia's ancient, rugged beauty, let's pivot to Jamaica. Whoa, talk about a complete vibe shift. It's all about those pristine white sand beaches, turquoise waters, and lush tropical greenery. The Blue Mountains, for instance, aren't as dramatic as the Siminas, but they're incredibly serene, giving us that world-famous coffee.
Blue Mountains, Blue Waters, Mira. Are you sure you're not just naming things that match your favorite outfit colors? But yes, Jamaica definitely paints a different picture. Those beaches aren't just for sunbathing, though I'm sure many of our listeners would agree that's a top-tier activity. They're part of an intricate coastal ecosystem. And the waterfalls, Dunn's River Falls, why? Falls? They're like nature's own water parks, except without the questionable hot dog stands.
Ew, my fashion sense is just ahead of the curve, but truly, Dunn's River Falls is an adventure in itself. You can actually climb up the terraced rocks with the water, cascading around you. It's like a natural spa day and an adrenaline rush rolled into one. Well, and then there's the Black River Safari, where you can spot crocodiles in their natural habitat. It's not all beaches and reggae, you know? It's got a wild side too.
Crocodiles, eh? That sounds less like a spa day and more like a potential snack for something with very big teeth. I imagine a tour guide saying, "And for our next trick, Mira attempts to charm the local fauna." Huh? Seriously though, the diverse ecosystems of Jamaica, from the marine life around the coral reef to the mangrove forests, are pretty remarkable. It's not just a postcard, it's a living, breathing tapestry. Speaking of which, if you're watching this on YouTube, let us know in the comments which country's natural beauty calls to you.
I make friends with the crocodiles, Leo. They'd probably be charmed by my jokes. And you're right, the marine life in Jamaica is spectacular. Snorkeling and diving there reveal these vibrant coral gardens. It's like an underwater kaleidoscope. Oh, and those hidden coves and grottos, like the Green Grotto Caves, are just waiting to be explored. Ethiopia has its geological marvels, but Jamaica has these tropical secrets.
Tropical secrets, huh? I'm pretty sure my coffee preferences are less secret than those caves, but the contrast is stark. Ethiopia offers that raw, ancient, almost spiritual landscape. You feel the weight of history in those mountains. Jamaica, on the other hand, gives you that lush, vibrant, immediate sensory explosion. It's a land of immediate gratification. For your eyes, at least. Wow. So if you're deciding where to go, Do you want to feel like an intrepid explorer discovering forgotten lands, or a laid-back adventurer soaked explorer discovering forgotten lands?
Exactly. Exactly. It's like choosing between a grand historical novel and a thrilling, colorful short story. Both incredible, but totally different experiences. I'm certain that our listeners are already picturing themselves in one of these places. If you like what you're hearing, don't forget to hit that like button on YouTube and subscribe for more comparisons like this. We'll keep bringing you these travel dilemmas.
A dilemma. Indeed, Mira. A glorious, beautiful dilemma. So whether you prefer Ethiopia's towering, ancient beauty or Jamaica's vibrant, tropical charm, both countries are absolutely overflowing with natural wonders. You really can't go wrong.
Oh, now this is a topic that gets my heart racing. Sports, activity and adventure options. You know, when I think of Ethiopia, the first thing that springs to mind is running. Wow, they produce some of the most incredible long-distance runners on the planet. It's like they're born with an extra engine, isn't it? I imagine their national sport is just everyone gracefully gliding past each other on a morning jog.
Extra engine or maybe just a lot of practice at running away from my jokes, who knows? But you're right, Mira. Ethiopia and long-distance running are practically synonyms. We're talking about legends like Haile Gebrselassie and Kenenisa Bekele. It's not just a sport there, it's a national identity. You think they start training in kindergarten, just passing the baton from one generation to the next? I bet even their post office delivery system is based on speed walking.
I'm certain that our listeners living in Ethiopia would agree with me. It's truly inspiring. But it's not just running, right? When you think about adventure, Ethiopia's got those dramatic landscapes. Imagine hiking through the Simien Mountains. The views must be absolutely breathtaking. And trekking to see the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela, that's like a spiritual adventure. Don't you think?
Trekking is great, provided I don't get lost and end up in a coffee ceremony I wasn't invited to. Oops, speaking of which, their coffee culture is an adventure in itself. But yes, the Simien Mountains are incredible. Though I have to say, for true adventure in the will I survive this category, the Dana Kil Depression really pushes the limits. Whoa! It's one of the hottest places on Earth, with active volcanoes and lava lakes. My kind of sit back and watch from a safe distance adventure.
Ooh, lava lake. That sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie. Well, I'd probably bring extra sunscreen and a very reflective outfit. But what about Jamaica? Leo. When I hear Jamaica, my mind immediately goes to Usain Bolt, the fastest man alive. So many incredible sprinters. It's like their speed is just in the air, a natural part of the island breeze. I bet even their turtles are faster.
Your turtle's comment just made my morning, Mira. But seriously, Jamaica and sprinting, it's another powerhouse. They dominate the tracks. I always picture everyone on the island doing a celebratory lightning bolt pose after brewing their morning coffee. It's a national pastime. And if you think this is wrong, please let us know in the comments. But beyond the track, Jamaica offers a different kind of thrill. Think about all those stunning beaches and waterfalls.
About the beaches. I can just imagine swimming in those turquoise waters. Oh, and everyone talks about Dunn's River Falls. It's like a natural water park where you climb up the falls. That sounds like so much fun. I'd probably slip and slide my way up, turning it into a comedy routine. Plus, they have zip lining through the rainforests. It's like flying.
Zip lining is indeed popular, but let's not forget their unique take on winter sports. You know, bobsledding. Thanks to a certain movie, everyone knows about the Jamaican bobsled team. It's pretty iconic, considering they're a tropical island. I'm sure their training involves dragging a sled across a very hot beach. Ouch! Talk about an adventure competing in a sport where you never see snow until the actual competition. That takes serious dedication. Or maybe just a good sense of humor.
absolutely amazing. I love that spirit. And speaking of different activities, I hear river tubing is also a big thing in Jamaica. Floating down a lazy river, surrounded by lush greenery. That sounds like the perfect way to unwind after a day of climbing waterfalls or, imaginary bobsled training on the sand. What do you think, listeners? Does that sound like a slice of paradise?
River tipping sounds very relaxing. Almost too relaxing for my observational humor, I might fall asleep. But for those who prefer something more active, you can go caving in Jamaica, exploring underground labyrinths, or deep-sea fishing, battling against a marlin. These are serious adventures. Plus, let's not forget the incredible diving and snorkeling in those clear waters. It's a whole different adventure travel, by the way. It's a whole different world down there. Well, I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. Do you prefer high-octane volcanic adventure like in Volcanus?
Ooh, diving sounds incredible. And I love that both countries offer such distinct adventures. Ethiopia gives you those raw, historical, and almost primal experiences with its mountains and extreme landscapes. While Jamaica offers that vibrant, sun-drenched, water-centric kind of thrill. It's like choosing between a grand, epic saga and a lively, feel-good musical. And you know me, I love a musical.
Indeed, Mira. One is about conquering peaks and ancient roots, the other about conquering waves and, well, still running really fast, just on a different surface. It seems no matter which country you choose, you're in for a memorable adventure. Just remember to pack the right shoes, whether it's for running uphill at altitude or trying not to slip on a wet waterfall. And if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe for more of our insightful and often ridiculous comparisons.
Alright, Leo, when I think about nightlife, my first thought is always, where's the nearest dance floor? Where's the nearest dance floor? I once tried to learn some new moves for a friend's party, ended up spinning myself right into the coat track. Oops. But seriously, our next stop, nightlife and entertainment venues in Ethiopia and Jamaica, promises some truly unique rhythms.
Mira, I'm not surprised you in a coat track at a moment. It's probably still recovering. But you're right. When we talk about nightlife, people usually picture neon lights and thumping bass. Yet, these two countries offer something far more intriguing, more rooted. It's not just about what time the bars open, it's about how a culture truly wins.
Absolutely. Take Ethiopia, for example. When I imagine its nightlife, I immediately think of the Azimari Bet. Wow. It's not just a place to grab a drink, it's like a spontaneous poetry and music show. You have these Azimari musicians with their one-stringed Mazinko and lyre-like KRAR, singing witty, sometimes teasing songs. Oh, I'm certain that our listeners in Ethiopia would agree it's an experience unlike any other. They even improvise jokes about the audience right there on the spot.
Yes, the AZ Mari Bet is a masterclass in direct audience engagement, isn't it? It's less about a pre-programmed setlist and more about a live, unfiltered, sometimes brutally honest interaction. I once heard a story about an AZ Mari who sang a song teasing a politician in the audience. Whoa. Talk about brave entertainment. It certainly makes a typical stand-up routine look rather tame. And speaking of raw, unbridled energy, you can't discuss nightlife without heading straight to Jamaica.
Oh, Jamaica! My heart is already doing a reggae beat just thinking about it. I picture vibrant street parties, massive sound systems blasting dancehall and reggae, and everyone just moving with such incredible rhythm. Wow. Forget spinning into code tracks, there I'd be trying to learn every single dance step. It feels like the whole island is one big, joyful celebration after dark, doesn't it? I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. Do you guys agree? But Jamaican nightlife is all about that open air.
Spontaneous is an understatement, Mira. It's less a party vibe and more a living organism of bass and good times. You've got your passe street dances, your link-up events where the music isn't just played, it's felt deep in your chest. It's a stark contrast to Ethiopia's more seated, intimate cultural performances, isn't it? One is a nuanced conversation. The other is a full-body declaration. For anyone planning a trip, Jetafe, I could definitely help you find those authentic local sound.
Because while both countries have their traditional scenes, they also offer more modern options. Addis Ababa, Ethiopia's capital, has a growing number of contemporary clubs and lounges with DJs, playing everything from local hits to international pop. Oh, it's a different kind of energy where you see a blend of traditional moves with global influences on the dance floor. I bet it's a blast.
Indeed. And Kingston, Jamaica, also has its share of more conventional clubs and resorts that cater to a different crowd. But the real soul of the night often spills onto the streets or onto beach parties, especially in tourist spots like Negril or Montego Bay. It's where the raw, infectious energy really thrives. You know, if you're watching this on YouTube, let us know in the comments if you've ever found yourself caught in a Jamaican street party. I'm willing to bet it's an experience you'd never forget.
I can only imagine. I bet I'd be attempting to whine and just end up looking like I'm trying to untangle myself from another co-track. But that's the beauty of it, isn't it? Both countries offer such a rich tapestry of ways to enjoy the night. From the storytelling and ancient melodies in Ethiopia to the electrifying beats and communal dancing in Jamaica. Oh, it's truly about finding your rhythm. So we're talking about family vibes and kid stuff, huh? When I think of family environments, my mind immediately jumps to Ethiopia's deep-rooted community spirit. It's like everyone's part of one big, loving family there. Children are often raised with the whole neighborhood pitching in, which I just find so heartwarming. It's like a giant co-op for hugs and wisdom. You see kids running around, playing simple games, and learning from everyone. It's a beautiful picture, honestly. I'm certain that our listeners living in Ethiopia would agree with me.
Giant co-op for hugs and wisdom. Sounds like my apartment building, if the wisdom was mostly about whose turn it was to take out the trash. But no, you're right. The family bonds in Ethiopia are something else. It's less about structured playdates and more about just, life happening together. My observations often led me to believe that kids in Ethiopia learn independence adaptability from a very young age. That's definitely a way to dive deep. They're not waiting for an app to tell them how to ability from a very young age. They're not waiting for an app to tell them how to build a toy. They just grab some sticks and imagination.
That's a great point about hands-on learning, Leo. There's a certain magic in that kind of freedom, isn't there? No fancy gadgets, just pure, unadulterated play. But then you look at a place like Jamaica, and while it also has strong family bonds and community, the play looks a little different. It's all about the outdoors, beaches, sunshine, and a rhythm that just gets into your soul. Oh, imagine your kids learning to dance before they can even properly walk. Imagine your kids learning to dance before they can even properly walk. Word. Now that's a childhood I can get behind.
Wanting to dance before they can walk. My parents just wanted me to learn to not spill my milk. But yes, Jamaica certainly offers a different kind of canvas for kids. Beaches become giants ambopses, the ocean's their swimming pool, and every local festival is a free concert. Beaches, the playgrounds with rubber mulch and more about climbing coconut trees, it's not always a theme park around every corner. My main observation is that while the natural environment is amazing access to, let's say.
Oh, Leo, you always have to bring us back to the realities of coconut tree climbing. But that's fair. The blend of nature and community in Jamaica is undeniable. What I've also noticed is how both countries, despite their varying levels of structured activities, prioritize children's well-being in their own ways. Ethiopia, for instance, might not have huge indoor play centers, but their rich storytelling traditions and cultural celebrations are incredibly engaging for kids.
A theatrical bedtime story, huh? Mine usually ended with go to sleep or no more TV. A theatrical bedtime storytelling, Mira? A theatrical bedtime story, Mira? It ties into that deeper cultural fabric. In terms of supportive programs, though, my observation is that while both countries love their children, the resources for specific developmental or educational programs. That's a life skill you don't learn might be more robust in certain urban centers or tourist-focused areas. You're not going to find a dedicated children's science museum everywhere.
Resourcefulness is a superpower. Both countries truly shine in fostering a strong sense of identity in their children through their vibrant cultures. In Ethiopia, it's about connecting to ancient history, delicious cuisine, and traditional music. Oh, in Jamaica, it's the rhythm, the language, the pride, and the unique heritage. Kids grow up knowing exactly where they come from. It's not just family-friendly, it's identity-friendly, if that makes sense.
Identity-friendly. I'll add that to my comedy routine, what the travel hosts say when they run out of adjectives. But really, that's a solid point. You don't just visit these places, you feel the history and the culture seep into you, and that's even more true for kids growing up there. So, whether you're building a sandcastle on Jamaican beach or listening to a folktale under an Ethiopian sky, these places offer distinct, powerful childhood experiences.
Alright, so speaking of embracing all kinds of experiences, let's talk about something that really shows how open-minded a place can be: the LGBT-friendly atmosphere. Well, we're diving into Ethiopia and Jamaica, two countries with incredibly rich cultures, but also, well, some complexities in this area. It's like trying to make a rainbow appear on a cloudy day sometimes.
Making a rainbow appear on a cloudy day, Mira. That's one way to put it. I'd say it's more like trying to convince a cat to enjoy a shower, lots of resistance, some claws, and eventually everyone just gets wet and unhappy. But seriously, this is a topic where my usual sarcasm has to be carefully measured. Ouch! We're talking about real people, real lives. In Ethiopia, for instance, same-sex acts are explicitly illegal. It's not just a societal frown, it's written in the books.
Ooh, that's a tough reality to face. It means a lot of people might not feel safe to be themselves, which is heartbreaking. Imagine having to constantly hide who you are, especially in your own home. It must be incredibly isolating. I'm certain that our listeners living in these countries would agree with me the struggle for acceptance is very real.
Isolation is a polite word for it. In both Ethiopia and Jamaica, the legal frameworks carry some serious weight. In Jamaica, the colonial-era buggery law, as they call it, criminalizes same-sex intimacy. It's a relic, yet it shapes current social attitudes, often quite severely. Whoa. It's like having a really old, grumpy grandparent at the family dinner who still thinks it's 1890 and is very vocal about it.
That's a very Leo way to describe it. Grumpy grandparent with legal power. But it highlights the issue, doesn't it? In these places, it's not just about personal opinions, there are actual laws. It truly affects daily life. Oh, we hear stories from activists in Jamaica trying to push for change, to create safe spaces. It's incredibly brave.
Brave, yes, and necessary. But for most of our listeners wondering about a vibrant, openly gay-friendly scene for travel or living, especially compared to, say, some Western cities, you won't find it on the main tourist brochures. We're talking about countries where public displays of affection, even between heterosexual couples, can be seen as reserved, so imagine the societal reaction to anything outside that norm.
Well, since we mentioned the challenges, what about the glimmer of hope? Are there any communities or movements, even if they're underground, trying to make things better? I mean, human connection is so vital, And people always find ways to connect, right? I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this, if they've seen any subtle shifts.
Subtle shifts. That's the key word. In Jamaica, you do see some organizations working quietly, advocating for rights and providing support. But it's often an uphill battle, often met with significant social pushback. It's not a pride parade down the main street kind of progress. It's more like a quiet gathering in someone's living room, which is equally important, but less visible to the casual observer. For Ethiopia, I imagine similar low-profile networks exist.
So it's about finding those hidden gems of acceptance and resilience. Oh, it truly takes courage to stand up for who you are in environments where it's not celebrated. It reminds me of those incredible stories you find on YouTube, where people share their journeys and inspire others, even from afar. You know, if you guys are enjoying this conversation, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube.
Always on brand, Mira. But you're right, digital spaces do offer some solace and connection. Even if the physical world is restrictive, it's a way for people to find their tribe, to see that they're not alone. The internet has a strange way of circumventing traditional barriers, for better or worse. Wow. On Jet-Off AI, for example, you can find travel guides that discreetly mention areas that might be slightly more welcoming without making grand promises.
That's a really important point, Leo. It's about being informed and aware, understanding the local context, and always prioritizing safety. For anyone considering travel or a move, you really need to do your homework beyond just the pretty pictures. And if you think this is wrong, please let us know in the comments section on YouTube. We want to hear your perspective.
Indeed. Because while we love to find the humor in everything, some issues demand a different kind of focus. These are not countries where the LGBT community enjoys broad legal protections or open social acceptance. It's a journey of advocacy and resilience, often operating quietly in the background. It's a stark reminder that the rainbow isn't universally celebrated, and there's still a lot of work to be done globally.
Our hope is always for a world where everyone can live authentically and joyfully. Oh, but for now, understanding these realities is the first step toward promoting empathy and support.
And maybe, just maybe, one day we'll be comparing pride parades instead of legal codes. Now that would be a podcast episode I'd be genuinely excited for.
Wow, me too, Leo. Me too. Speaking of journeys, I was just thinking about how different cultures welcome you in. Oh, you know, Ethiopia is often described as having this incredibly deep sense of hospitality. It's like they don't just open their doors, they practically roll out a red carpet made of good vibes and amazing food. I imagine you'd arrive and instantly feel like you've been adopted into a giant, loving family.
Adopted, you say? More like interrogated with kindness. If my experience serves me. I've been to places where the welcome is so warm, you start to sweat from the sheer amount of genuine interest. Whoa! Ethiopia, huh? I can picture it's like a grand old movie, where everyone has a part for you. No. Jamaica's hospitality, on the other hand, is a different kind of warmth. It's more like a sun-drenched, we've got our own rhythm energy.
Interrogate you with kindness. I love that, Leo. But seriously, the Ethiopian coffee ceremony is legendary. It's not just a drink, it's a whole social ritual, right? They roast the beans fresh, serve it 3 times, and it's a sign of immense respect and friendship. Well, it's like they're saying, we don't just want you to stay, we want you to experience us. And they love sharing their Indra and WOT with visitors. It's so beautiful how food and culture intertwine. I'm certain that our listeners living in Ethiopia would agree with me on that deep connection.
See, That's where the observational humor cheeks in, Mira. My deepest respect for the ritual, of course. But I can also imagine myself accidentally interrupting the third pour of coffee because I'm distracted by something absurd. But I'd probably get a gentle but firm look that says, Dino. But firm look that says, dude, you just broke centuries of tradition. Then I'd probably get a gentle but firm look that said, uproots. They appreciate the tourism, but they're not always looking for you to be kinda. It's more of a living like are generally welcoming to foreigners.
Well, I think that's actually pretty cool too. Oh, it's an honest welcome, not an earth think about what our listeners think about this live and let live approach versus the super massive hospitality. If you think one is better than the other, please let us know in the comments below. Going back to Ethiopia, I've heard stories of foreigners being invited to local weddings or family gatherings almost immediately. It's not just about a quick chat, it's about forming genuine, long-lasting bonds.
Genuine long-lasting bonds, you say? My main concern would be how many times I'd accidentally step on someone's foot during a traditional dance. Ouch. Then the long-lasting bond would be me profusely apologizing in broken Amharic. With Jamaica, while they're definitely warm and appreciative of visitors, there can also be a subtle undercurrent of island time versus foreigner schedule. You might be trying to get something done, and they're just like, it's not rudeness, it's just a different pace.
Oh, Leo, you enjoy coffee. But nah, soon come attitude is part of the charm, isn't it? It teaches you to slow down to breathe. And for foreigners looking to integrate, I think that's a valuable lesson in both places. In Ethiopia, that warm embrace often comes with an expecting cultural norms, especially regarding elders in community. In Jamaica, it's about adapting to the rhythm and not trying to force your own. Wow. It's about finding that sweet spot where you're respectful but still authentically yourself.
Authentically myself, you say? Which, for me, often involves accidentally making a sarcastic remark that lands completely flat. Oops. I'm sure that's a universally charming trait, right? Mira, integration is key. Integration is key. In both countries, I've noticed that if you make an effort to learn a few local phrases, even just that, it's all about not being the clueless foreigner who doesn't even know soon come means maybe tomorrow. Least it prevents them for anyone planning their advance.
That's a great point, Leo. Learning a little bit of Amharic or some Jamaican pat would definitely shows respect. Oh, it's like a secret handshake that says, I care about your culture. And while Ethiopia might overwhelm you with generosity, and Jamaica might teach you the art of patience, both offer incredibly rich human experiences. Well, it's about connecting, laughing, and sometimes just letting go of your schedule and going with the flow. So, whether you're being showered with coffee or swaying to reggae.
Just make sure your dancing doesn't accidentally spill the coffee mirror. Otherwise, you might find that home is a little less welcoming.
Okay, so we've just talked about how amazing both Ethiopia and Jamaica are for their rich cultures and stunning landscapes. But let's look at this topic. How do you think our modern world's obsession internet access fits into these vibrant places? I'm picturing ancient Ethiopian scrolls being uploaded to the cloud.
Ancient scrolls to the cloud. Oh, sounds like a software update that's been running for, a few millennia. Speaking of connectivity, in a world where everyone's trying to get their latest dance move on TikTok, the 21st internet infrastructure and digital facilities of a country is, well, kind of important. I mean, how else would I post my sarcastic travel selfies?
Exactly. And for Ethiopia, it's a fascinating journey. While they're rapidly expanding traditionally, the internet has been more centralized, mainly through Ethio Telecom. Wow. It's like having one main coffee shop in town. You know it's good, but sometimes the line is a bit long, and you wonder if they'll ever get that fancy new espresso machine.
I single coffee shop, eh? So, if you're trying to stream a high-definition documentary on, say, the history of coffee, you might be waiting a while. Ouch! I've heard stories of internet speeds that make dial-up look like a Formula One race. Though I'm certain our listeners who've tried to upload a huge video file they would agree with me. On Jet Off AI, we'll actually have some articles detailing typical speeds and costs, so check it out if you're planning a visit.
Oh, come on, They're making huge strides, especially in urban centers like Addis Ababa. They're investing in fiber optic networks and trying to boost digital literacy. Aha! It's about bringing connectivity to more people, making it more affordable. You know, building those digital bridges so everyone can cross. It might not be super speedy everywhere, but the effort is genuinely there. Ooh.
Digital bridges, I like that. But are these bridges made of, paper match on a rainy day or actual steel? I'm just picturing a digital nomad setting up their laptop in a remote Ethiopian village, only to realize their super fast internet is actually a carrier pigeon with a USB stick. Now, Jamaica, that's a whole different vibe, isn't it? Island time. But does that extend to the broadband?
Well, in Jamaica, the internet landscape is much more robust, especially in tourist areas and major cities. Wow, they have multiple providers, so there's competition, which usually means better service and more options. It's like a lively market with different vendors, all trying to get your attention with their best fruit. Oh! You'll find decent speeds for browsing, streaming, and posting those beautiful beach pics. I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. How reliable is your internet on the island?
So, fewer digital carrier pigeons and more. I don't know. Digital dolphins delivering gigabytes. That's good to hear, especially for anyone looking to work remotely from a beachside bungalow. But what about beyond the resorts? Is it still easy to get online if you're, let's say, trying to find a local jerky recipe in a tiny village? My guess is you might need to walk a bit to find a strong signal. Oops.
Oops, not quite. They're making good progress in expanding coverage beyond the main hubs too. Community access points and initiatives are popping up to ensure more people can get online. It's all about making sure everyone gets a piece of the digital pie, even if that pie sometimes needs a little extra sugar. You can watch our YouTube channel for more fun facts about digital access around the world, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Extra sugar on the digital pie. I'll remember that one. Oh! For Ethiopia, I imagine digital innovation sometimes means getting a website to load in under a minute. On a serious note, the government has historically had a tight grip on telecommunications, which can sometimes stifle innovation or limit choice for consumers. It's like having one brand of everything, you know what you're getting. But where's the fun in that?
Controlled originality, you're too much. Yeah, but you're right. There are certainly challenges. However, they're starting to open up the sector, encouraging private investment. Imagine the burst of creativity and new services that could come from that. It's like finally adding a splash of all those vibrant Ethiopian colors to the digital canvas. Well, I'm genuinely excited for what's next there.
I'll believe it when I see my ancient scroll upload finishing in under an hour. For Jamaica, I assume they're a bit more open to digital entrepreneurship given their strong tourism economy. More startups, more digital services? It feels like a place where someone could build a successful online business selling, say, Jamaican-themed digital reggae beats without too much bureaucratic head scratching. Do you agree? People watching on YouTube.
Jamaica has a growing tech scene, especially in areas like fintech and creative industries. Oh, they're embracing digital payment solutions and encouraging local talent to innovate. It's not just about tourism anymore, it's about building a diverse digital economy where bright ideas can truly flourish. I even heard about an app for finding the best local street food vendors. Talk about essential innovation.
An app for street food? Now you're speaking my language. Wow, that's the kind of digital facility I can get behind. Forget smart cities, I want smart street food. So if I'm understanding this correctly, Ethiopia is still building its digital foundations, sometimes literally, while Jamaica is already decorating its digital home with smart gadgets and, apparently, delicious apps. Both on a journey, just at different, shall we say, internet speeds.
Exactly. Ethiopia is laying the groundwork, making steady progress, while Jamaica is enjoying a more developed, albeit still evolving, digital landscape. Both are adapting to the modern world in their own unique ways. It's like one is preparing a grand feast with all the traditional methods, and the other is hosting a lively beach BBQ with modern grills. Oh, both delicious, just different approaches. And you, dear listeners, can find more of our unique takes on travel and tech on Jet Off AI, where we dissect destinations with a smile.
I'd pick the BBQ, personally. But hey, different strokes for different folks, right? Ultimately, both countries are showing commitment to bringing their populations into the digital age. It's a long road, or perhaps a long fiber optic cable, but the direction is clear. Who knows? Maybe one day my coffee-making robot will get its software updates directly from an Ethiopian satellite.
So after all that talk about how countries run, let's lighten up a bit and dive into something truly universal: shopping. I mean, who doesn't love a good treasure hunt? Especially when you're in a new place. For our current topic, we're comparing shopping opportunities and the price-performance balance in Ethiopia and Jamaica. I'm already picturing colorful markets and unique finds. Oh.
Shopping, you say? I usually measure a country's retail prowess by how quickly I can find a t-shirt that doesn't scream tourist trap. But I suppose we can stretch that to include price-performance balance. Oh, you always manage to find the most outrageously quirky souvenirs, Mira. Last time, didn't you try to bring back a life-size llama statue?
It was a very expressive llama, Leo. It was a very expressive llama, Leo. Anyway, let's start with Ethiopia's shopping scene. When I think of Ethiopia, my mind immediately goes to the Grand Mercato in Addis Ababa. Well, it's one of the largest open-air markets in Africa. A total sensory overload in the best way. You can find everything from spices that make your nose tingle, to vibrant traditional fabrics like the Habe Shokem is, and of course, the legendary Ethiopian coffee.
The Mercato. I remember navigating that place. It's less a market and more elaborate design by a caffeine-fueled architect. You go in for a bag of coffee beans and emerge 3 hours later with a goat and a vague sense of existential dread. Oh, but seriously, the coffee is genuinely superb, especially the Uragef's Corsi Domo varieties. For listeners who love their brew, getting fresh, unroasted beans, there is definitely a price-performance win. I'm certain our listeners who are coffee aficionados living in Ethiopia.
Absolutely. And the haggling is part of the fun there. I once spent 20 minutes negotiating the price of a small wooden cross, mostly through exaggerated hand gestures and dramatic sighs. The vendor and I ended up laughing so hard we probably gave each other the best deal. It's all about connection, you know. You really feel like you're getting something unique and authentic, not just a mass-produced item. Wow. If you're looking for genuine crafts, silver jewelry, or those beautiful woven baskets.
Yes, the performance part of price performance truly shines in the craftsmanship, but let's be honest, unless you're a seasoned haggler, you're probably paying for a tax on that cross. Ouch. While the markets are fantastic for cultural items, if you're looking for, say, a new smartphone or an international brand of sneakers, you'll find modern malls popping up in Addis Ababa, but the prices there tend to be on par with or even higher than Western countries. Whoa.
True. You won't be finding discounted designer bags, but that's not what Ethiopia is about for me. Ooh! It's about the artisanal, the handcrafted, the story behind each piece. Speaking of stories, let's hop over to Jamaica. Yo man. The shopping vibes there are a whole different rhythm. You've got your craft markets filled with wood carvings, straw hats, and reggae memorabilia. And then there's the famous Blue Mountain coffee so delicious.
Ah, Jamaica, where every souvenir stand tries to convince you their Bob Marley t-shirt is authentic. The craft markets are certainly vibrant, but you need a discerning eye. The price-performance balance can be tricky. You'll find beautifully carved items, but also a lot of generic trinkets. Oh, for our listeners thinking of visiting, be prepared for some enthusiastic sales pitches. I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. Do you embrace the haggling, or do you just pay the asking price to avoid the theatrical foreman?
I love a good performance, Leo, but you're right, in Jamaica, especially in tourist hubs like Montego Bay or Negro, the prices for souvenirs can feel a bit inflated. Ouch. However, if you venture into local produce markets, you can get incredible value for fresh fruits, spices, and of course, authentic jerk seasoning. Wow. That's where the real flavor is. Literally and figuratively.
Indeed. And for those with a more refined taste, Jamaica also offers duty-free shopping, particularly at the airports or dedicated shopping centers. Here, you'll find high-end liquor, jewelry, perfumes, and electronics. The prices are often competitive, offering a decent performance for luxury goods, if that's your jam. But let's not pretend you're getting a steal on a diamond necklace. It's more about convenience and the tax-free aspect.
If you're looking for an unforgettable cultural experience and truly unique, handcrafted treasures with incredible value, Ethiopia is your spot. You'll come back with a story for every purchase. Ooh, for Jamaica, you'll find excellent value in their world-renowned coffee and rum, and a vibrant local market scene for foodies. But for general souvenirs, you need to be a bit more selective to get that good price-performance balance.
To wrap this up, it seems Ethiopia wins on authentic, affordable local crafts and phenomenal coffee, giving you great bang for your buck on cultural items. Jamaica offers its famous exports and some luxury duty-free, but its general souvenir market requires a sharper eye and perhaps a thicker wallet. Either way, if you're watching this on YouTube, remember to like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments what your favorite shopping experiences have been in these countries, or if you think we got this all wrong.
Oh, let's talk about cultural events, festivals, and concerts for Ethiopia and Jamaica. My heart's already doing a little samba just thinking about all that vibrant energy. Wow, I imagine both places just burst with color and music, like a constant party, you know?
A constant party. I bet the locals would have a sarcastic chuckle at that Mira. Especially in Ethiopia, where their calendar seems to exist in its own cosmic dimension. 12 months of sunshine plus a 13th month? Pagumi, that's just showing off, isn't it? It's like they said, normal calendars are for amateurs, we need extra time for our festivals.
Well, that just means more days for celebration, Leo. What's not to love? Oh, speaking of unique celebrations, Ethiopia's Timkat Festival, or Epiphany, sounds absolutely spectacular. Well, you and ESC are recognized vibrant parades and people ray in actisms. It's like a joyous street party. I'm certain that our listeners living in Ethiopia would agree with me. It's an experience unlike any other. Ah,
Reenacting baptisms, huh? I can just picture myself trying to look reverent while secretly thinking, is my hair going to dry before lunch? But seriously, the scale of dedication during Timkat, with the Talbots replicas of the Ark of the Covenant being carried through the streets, that's pretty wild. It's a level of public devotion you don't often see. Whoa. Makes my usual morning coffee ritual look a bit drab in comparison.
oh, your coffee ritual is probably a private sacred ceremony anyway, Leo. But imagine the energy of Miskel too, where they celebrate the finding of the true cross with bonfires and flowers. It's like a massive community gathering, sharing stories and light. Doesn't that just warm your soul? Ooh, I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. Do you prefer grand, symbolic festivals or something more intimate?
Warm my soul? I prefer my soul warmed by a strong espresso. Thank you very much. But a massive bonfire does sound like a good place to roast a few marshmallows. Or maybe a few overly enthusiastic tourists. Just kidding, mostly. And speaking of things warming up, let's swing over to Jamaica, where the festivals have a slightly different kind of fire.
I was just about to ask that. So, from bonfires to beaches, what's cooking in Jamaica's festival scene?
Well, Mira, if Ethiopia has its ancient calendar, Jamaica has its ancient rhythm. Wow, you can't talk about Jamaican culture without mentioning music, and Reggae Some Fest is the heavyweight champion. Oh, it's not just a concert, it's a pilgrimage for reggae and dancehall fans. You've got international stars, local legends, and enough bass to rattle your teeth.
Oh, I'd be right there in the crowd, probably attempting some questionable dance moves and getting lost in the rhythm. That sounds incredibly immersive. I bet all island just pulses with music during that time. Ooh, do they also celebrate Bob Marley's birthday with a big bash? Because that feels mandatory.
Mandatory. My friend, it's practically a national holiday for good vibes. February 6th sees celebrations, tributes, and concerts everywhere. It's less of a formal festival and more of an island-wide expression of love for the king of reggae. You can feel his spirit in every beat. For more insights into how these cultural trends influence travel, you really should check out Jet.ai. It's where these insights come from after all.
Wow. See, Leo, a whole island dedicated to good vibes and music. That's my kind of party. And I love how they fuse history with fun, like the Accommodation Maroon Festival, celebrating their heritage and resistance. It's not just about remembering.
Indeed. Though I imagine the Maroon Festival might be a bit more structured than your typical Let's All Groove to Bob event. And let's not forget Jamaica's Carnival, or Bacchanal Jamaica. That's a different beast entirely. Think street parades, and soca music. It's like they've bottled pure, unadulterated joy and unleashed it on the streets. Whoa! Trying to keep up with those costumes would be a cardio workout.
Oh, I'd probably just show up in a rainbow-colored t-shirt and try to blend in with the sparkle. Art. But isn't it amazing how both countries, despite their differences, use these events to unite people? Whether it's the deeply spiritual gatherings in Ethiopia or the vibrant musical parades in Jamaica, they create a sense of belonging.
Absolutely, Mira. It's proof that humanities need to get together and make some noise. And maybe eat something unusual is universal. Though I'm pretty sure you won't find a traditional Ethiopian coffee ceremony during Bacchanal. One might clash with the other. But if you like what you're hearing, folks, don't forget to like this podcast on YouTube and leave us a comment. We'd love to hear about your favorite festivals.
Yes, definitely. Your comments fuel our humor. Oh, And these insights could have been possible without Jetofe, by referring to cultural trends, from ancient rituals to modern beats. Both Ethiopia and Jamaica offer a dizzying array of ways to experience their heart and soul.
A dizzying array indeed. I'm just wondering if I have enough coffee to process all that cultural richness. Maybe next time we'll compare nap schedules.
Let's dive into opportunities of learning the local language for Ethiopia and Jamaica. Oh, when I think about picking up a new language, my brain immediately jumps to trying to mimic the sounds with wild hand gestures. It's like a full body workout, you know?
Mira, I'm picturing you trying to order coffee in a new country, looking like you're performing interpretive dance. Wow, I'd pay good money to see that show. But seriously, language learning isn't always about the tricks. So for Ethiopia, we're mostly talking about Amharic, right? It's their official working language.
Amharic uses the Gears script, which, let me tell you, is a beautiful challenge. It's not your typical Latin alphabet, it's a whole new set of squiggles and lines. Wow, imagine trying to read that menu after a long flight. Oops. But for those who embrace the adventure, there are language schools in Addis Ababa and other major cities. You can find private tutors too, which is great for one-on-one attention. I'm certain that our listeners living in Ethiopia would agree that immersion is probably the best teacher.
Gia script, huh? Sounds like my grocery list after I've had too much coffee and tried to write it from memory. Ouch. That's a significant hurdle for most Western learners. It's not like picking up a Romance language where you at least recognize some letters. Here, you're starting from scratch. I once tried to learn a language with a completely different script, and my brain felt like it was doing acrobatics without a safety net. Plus, Amharic has a distinct grammatical structure and some unique sounds.
It is a brain gym, but the fun one. Oh, imagine the satisfaction when you finally recognize a few words or can ask for directions without needing to pull out your phone's translation app. And the culture is so rich, learning Amharic connects you to the heart of Ethiopia, its history, and its amazing people. You'll hear phrases like selam no for hello, and just learning a few basic greetings can open so many doors to genuine interactions. It's like finding a secret handshake for a whole new world.
Secret handshake or a secret code that only a select few understand. I'm all for cultural immersion, but if I can't even tell if I'm ordering chicken or a small, angry badger for dinner, I might stick to pointing at pictures. But let's switch gears a little. What about Jamaica? We're talking about a completely different vibe linguistically, right? Like English is the official language, but there's also Jamaican patois.
Exactly. While Jamaican Standard English is widely understood, especially in official settings, daily life and street conversations are usually in Jamaican patois. Oh, it's a vibrant, rhythmic language that's truly part of the island's identity. Learning patois is less about formal grammar books and more about soaking it up from the people around you. It's like music, really. You just feel it. You just feel it. When we upload this to YouTube, don't forget to comment if you've tried learning patois and have some fun stories.
Soaking it up sounds a lot less intimidating than deciphering ancient scrolls. I'll give you that. But patois can still be a challenge for an English speaker. It's not just an accent, it's a Creole with its own vocabulary, syntax, and nuances. I've heard some patois conversations where I felt like I needed a decoder ring into fast-talking dictionary. Whoa, it's an experience for sure, trying to keep up. I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. Do you find patois easy to pick up, or is it a bit of linguistic role easy to pick up?
It can definitely feel like a roller coaster at first, but a super fun one. Oh, you pick up phrases like YGWAN for what's up, enough respect for showing appreciation. It's a language that expresses so much personality and rhythm. While formal schools for patois might be less common than for Amharic, the entire island is your classroom. You learn it by listening to music, talking to locals, and just being open to the fun. It's more about feeling the language than rigid study.
Feeling the language, Mira. You make it sound like a spot treatment. For me, feeling the language usually means I've confused "thank you" with "where's the bathroom?" And am now in an awkward situation. Oops. But I do appreciate that English is the official language in Jamaica, which takes a lot of pressure off. You can conduct official business and easily communicate in many tourist spots without needing to become fluent in patois immediately. That's a big plus compared to, say, tackling Gia's script right off the bat.
It really is, Leah. That foundational English makes daily life so much smoother, even as you gradually immerse yourself in patois. Oh, it means you can still ask for directions or order your ackee and salt fish, with these while picking up the local lingo on the side. It's the best of both worlds for language learners, really. It gives you the chance to be both practical and adventurous, which is always my favorite combo. If you like it and follow our podcast for more such comparisons, we'll talk about the details on Jetally for those who want to relocate and need language learning resource.
Ah, see, Mira, you just gave me a reason not to panic. So, if you're thinking about immersing yourself, Ethiopia offers a deep dive into Amharic with its unique script and sounds, demanding a full commitment. And I'll tell you, that commitment makes for some fascinating observations. Jamaica, on the other hand, gives you English as a safety net while inviting you to dance into the rich, rhythmic world of patois. Both sound like incredible adventures, just different kinds of linguistic challenges.
You know, it's funny how a place can look so inviting in pictures, but then you start wondering about the little things. Like, what if I decide to spontaneously join a local dance circle in a new country? Will I be safe doing that, or just look ridiculous? Today, we're actually looking at a really important topic: safety and comfort for women travelers into absolutely captivating nations, Ethiopia and Jamaica. We want to dive into what it's like for women exploring these vibrant cultures.
Mira, your spontaneous dance circles usually involve tripping over your own feet, so I think safety for you starts with personal balance. But yes, this is serious business. When it comes to women traveling, especially solo, the vibe and reality can be two wildly different things. Ethiopia, for example, is often seen through the lens of ancient history and deep-rooted culture. The hospitality is legendary, but sometimes that can be misinterpreted, couldn't it?
Oh, you're so right, Leo. In Ethiopia, my impression has always been that there's a strong sense of community and family values, which often extends to how women are treated. I've heard stories of incredible kindness where women travelers felt genuinely looked after, almost like a temporary part of the local family. Wow. Of course, like any place with a rich, traditional culture, there are norms to navigate. Dressing modestly, especially in religious sites, is a sign of respect, and it can definitely make a difference in how you're perceived and approached.
Ah, Mira, looked after like a temporary part of the local family, that's one way to put it. My observational instincts kick in, and I just picture a well-meaning Annie trying to feed you Indra until you burst. But seriously, while the community aspect can be a safeguard, Ethiopia can also present challenges, particularly in busier urban areas like Addis Ababa or during crowded events. Petty that fine line between genuine interest and the energy. Petty theft, unfortunately, isn't unheard of, and sometimes the hospitality can morph into persistent attention.
Speaking of vibrant energy, let's hop over to Jamaica. Oh, when I think of Jamaica, I imagine sunshine, reggae, and a lot of lively chatter. For women travelers, I feel like the island's warmth and the no worries attitude can be incredibly appealing. Many resort areas in tourist-heavy towns like Montego Bay or Negril have a strong security presence, which helps visitors feel more at ease. The people are incredibly welcoming, and there's a strong sense of pride in their culture.
No worries attitude, Mira, is often code for don't ask too many questions about that loud music at 3 a.m. Jamaica's appeal is undeniable, but it's crucial to remember that its vibrant energy also comes with its own set of unique dynamics. While tourist zones are generally quite secure, venturing into less trafficked areas, especially alone at night, requires a different level of awareness. The street hustle is real, and women can sometimes face persistent catcalling or unwanted advances, while not always threatening catcalling or unwanted advances,
Oh, that's a good point, Leo. So, while the sunshine is always there, you still need your street smarts. What do you think, listeners? Have you experienced situations where friendly interactions unexpectedly crossed a line? Let us know in the comments section on YouTube. My advice would be to embrace the culture, but also to have your boundaries ready. Maybe a firm but polite no thank you, and keeping your phone charged for ride shares is a good idea. And finding local women's groups or networks online can be a fantastic way to get genuine advice.
Boundaries ready, I like that, Mirror. Perhaps a recorded message on your phone that says, I am not interested, but thank you for appreciating my incredible sense of humor. In both Ethiopia and Jamaica, it really boils down to cultural context and knowing where you are. In Ethiopia, blending in, respecting the reality of your surroundings, and having a local contact can be incredibly helpful. In Jamaica, especially in crowded spots, keeping an eye on your belongings and avoiding overly flashy displays of wealth is always a display of wealth.
Ah, that's a golden rule for any destination, isn't it? Whether you're navigating the bustling markets of Addis Ababa or the lively beaches of Negro, a bit of common sense goes a long way. And hey, for anyone interested in digging deeper, Jetafea has some fantastic articles on safe travel practices for women. So, while both countries offer incredible experiences, women travelers, you've got to bring your positive spirit, your curiosity, and definitely your good judgment.
Indeed, Mira. So, for all our female listeners out there eyeing a trip to Ethiopia or Jamaica, remember to pack your confidence, a dash of caution, and maybe a well-practiced polite no thank you. And for Mira, perhaps a GPS for your dance moves.
Moving from dancing and festivals, let's talk about something a little more structured, if you can believe it, legal systems and individual rights. When you hear legal system, do you immediately picture a giant pile of ancient scrolls? Or is that just me?
Mira, I picture a tiny, unassuming bureaucrat with a rubber stamp whose sole purpose in life is to say no. Wow. Because let's be real, individual rights often feel like a treasure hunt through a maze of fine print. But hey, it's good material for a stand-up routine. Imagine a judge trying to understand my jokes.
Well, let's dive into Ethiopia first. Well, it's a country with such a rich, ancient history, and their legal system is built on a federal parliamentary republic with a constitution. It's designed to protect rights like freedom of speech and assembly, which sounds amazing. Like a big, warm blanket of legal protection, you know?
A warm blanket, you say? Or sometimes a very scratchy wool blanket that keeps shifting around and makes you itch in places you can't reach. On paper, it's all their freedoms and rights, but the implementation can be a bit like trying to catch smoke with a sieve, especially when things get, shall we say, politically lively. We've seen periods where freedom of expression has been, let's just use the term, exercised with caution. Whoa, and internet shutdowns. That's just cruel. How are people supposed to post pictures of their coffee if they can't shut downs?
Oh, Leo. Always finding the humor, even in internet wars. But you're right, there have been challenges. Yet, the Constitution itself has gone through revisions, and there are efforts to strengthen democratic institutions. Oh, they're really trying to build a robust system, even with historical layers. It's like building a modern skyscraper on top of ancient ruins. Fascinating, but you've got to be careful where you put the new pillars. Don't want to knock over a pyramid by mistake. And speaking of pyramids, do you think legal documents in Ethiopia are written on paper still?
But honorably, and then they make you fill out 6 copies by hand, each one slightly different. But on a more serious note, Ethiopia's legal landscape is also shaped by customary and religious laws running alongside the state system. So, you got this beautiful mosaic of legal traditions, which sounds incredibly rich, but it can also be a little confusing if you're not from there. Imagine trying to explain stand-up comedy to someone who only understands ancient proverbs. It's a legal system with layers. It's a legal system with layers.
A fruit salad sounds much more appealing. Jamaica, on the other hand, operates under a common law system, heavily influenced by its British colonial past. So, if you're familiar with the British legal framework, it's generally easier to grasp. Their constitution guarantees fundamental rights and freedoms, and it's generally a more stable, predictable system. It's like a well-oiled machine, mostly. They have a strong emphasis on parliamentary democracy, and individual liberties like freedom of speech, assembly, and individual liberties.
A well-oiled machine, you say? Even well-oiled machines sometimes sputter, mirror. While Jamaica definitely has a robust legal framework, it's not without its bumps and potholes, particularly when it comes to crime rates. Individual rights are respected, but the shadow of public safety can sometimes test the system. Whoa. It's like having a beautiful car. Whoa. It's like having a beautiful car. But you're constantly worried someone's going to try and steal your sparians. But credit where credit's due, their judiciary is generally considered independent.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic point about the Rastafarian community, Leo. Oh, it shows how a society can evolve and integrate diverse groups under its legal umbrella. It's like the legal system is learning to groove to a new beat. It reminds us that rights aren't static, they adapt and grow. Do you guys agree with us? I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this, especially how different cultural groups navigate legal systems in their own countries. You can like and comment on our YouTube channel about it, and we'll talk about the details on Jet Off AI later too.
Speaking of adapting and growing, both countries, despite their differences, are constantly navigating the push and pull between tradition and modernity in their legal systems. Ethiopia with its multi-lorge approach and Jamaica with its common law roots. It's like watching two different kinds of dancers try to perform the same complex choreography. I think he was joking. One might use ancient post-choreography. One might use ancient flowing movements, the other sharp, precise steps. Wow. But ultimately, they're both trying to uphold justice, even if the definitions of justice.
Oh, Leo, your lawyer friends sound like they've seen some things. But seriously, what both countries teach us is that a legal system isn't just about the laws on paper, it's about the spirit in which they're applied in the ongoing efforts to ensure everyone's rights are upheld. It's a continuous journey, filled with its own twists and turns. So, whether you're dealing with ancient scrolls or common law, the goal remains the same, trying to ensure fairness for everyone. Oh, even for those who spill coffee on themselves first thing in the morning. Oops.
Spilling coffee might be a universal right, Mira, and I'm sure there's a legal precedent for it somewhere. But to sum it up for our listeners, when we talk about legal systems and individual rights, it's never a simple black or white picture. You have rich constitutional frameworks in both Ethiopia and Jamaica, promising various freedoms. However, the real-world application, political landscapes and societal challenges add complexity. Wow.
All right, my lovely listeners, after all the talk about which country's judicial system makes you want to pull your hair out, let's completely switch gears and talk about something that actually makes you feel good. Oh, today we're diving into spa, healthy living, and relaxation opportunities in Ethiopia and Jamaica. Now, I'm already imagining myself on a sun-drenched beach with a pineapple smoothie, but let's see what Ethiopia has in store for us first. I once tried to meditate in a crowded airport, and let's just say my inner peace lasted exactly until the boarding announcement.
Mira, I can picture that. Your inner peace probably resembled a squirrel trying to organize its nuts during a hurricane. But speaking of relaxation, Ethiopia offers a kind of wellness that isn't about fancy resorts or a no-problem attitude you can buy on a t-shirt. It's more of an earthy, deeply rooted thing. Think traditional bathing rituals or slow, intricate coffee ceremony. Use it, you wait, you breathe in the aroma. It's less about the spa and more about the slow down you'd experience.
Wow, a coffee ceremony as a spa treatment. I love it. It's like the ultimate mindful sipping experience. Ooh, I bet the steam from the coffee itself is like a mini facial. Plus, Ethiopian cuisine with all those vibrant injera platters and hearty wots. You know, healthy food without even trying. I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. Do you prefer a quick detox juice or a full, slow meal as part of your wellness routine? Let us know in the comments when this goes up on YouTube.
Mindful sipping is a new one, Mira. I'm noting that for my next stand-up bit. But you're right. The food is certainly a healthy anchor. And then there's the landscape. Ethiopia's highlands aren't just for dramatic photo shoots, they're perfect for trekking, for stretching those legs and getting some good, clean air. It's a natural workout, not some forced gym session where you're just staring at yourself in a mirror. Whoa. I once tried to hike a gentle incline. That turned out to be a goat path to the moon.
Leo, I'm sure you looked very graceful, like a mountain goat trying to do ballet. Oh, but you hit on something important, the natural movement. And when we think about relaxation, it's not just about what you do, but how you live. Ethiopia's strong community spirit and often slower pace of life, especially in rural areas, can be incredibly calming. It's a different kind of spa, one for the soul. It's like the whole country is saying, chill out, we've got time.
Chill out, we've got time. That's certainly not my usual morning mantra before my fourth coffee. But let's flip the script and jump over to Jamaica. Here, the spa is often the ocean. You've got the reggae rhythms flowing, the sun on your skin, and that unmistakable no problem attitude. It's less about ancient rituals and more about vibrant, immediate joy. And those natural waterfalls, like Dunn's River Falls, it's a natural massage therapy session, all included. Wow. I'm certain that our listeners living in the cold.
Wow, you got me dreaming of Jamaica now, Leo. Oh, Dunn's River Falls sounds like an epic water park that also happens to be a natural wonder. I can just picture myself trying to do a synchronized swimming routine with the fish. And you can't talk about Jamaica without mentioning the idle diet, right? It's a whole lifestyle of natural, wholesome food, often vegetarian or vegan. Lots of fresh fruits, callaloo, and that amazing jerk seasoning. You're getting a full-body wellness package with every meal. It's way more delicious and with more good vibes.
Synchronized swimming with fish. I wouldn't miss that for the world, Mira. Make sure you get that on video for you too. And while the idle diet is certainly a pillar of healthy living there, even the standard Jamaican cuisine with all its vibrant flavors and fresh ingredients promotes a certain vitality. It's about movement too. From dancing to reggae, whether you're good at it or just, enthusiastic to water sports and hiking the Blue Mountains. It's an active kind of relaxation.
Exactly. It's a country that just makes you want to move. Ooh, I love that both Ethiopia offers such distinct paths to wellness. Ethiopia's deep spiritual connection, the slow coffee ceremony, the natural beauty for reflection. And then Jamaica with its vibrant energy, the ocean as your healer, and music as your healer, and music as your therapy. It really encouraged you to visit Jezol. Is it Jezol, Faye? For more details on these unique wellness experiences. They've got Faye insights there.
It certainly isn't a one-size-fits-all. One offers a quiet, almost meditative wellness, while the other shouts relax, with a rhythm section. Wow. If you're stressed, you might gravitate to Jamaica's immediate sensory overload or Ethiopia's gentle, slow unwinding. Personally, I need a place with very strong coffee and very few people judging my attempts at mindful breathing. But hey, both countries have their charms. So, which one calls to your inner calm? Dear listeners.
Oh, let's dive into something a little less chaotic than our usual travel mishaps, shall we? We're talking about opportunities for religious and spiritual needs, and I'm genuinely excited about our two countries today, Ethiopia and Jamaica. Ooh, talk about places steeped in history and soul. It feels like every stone has a story, you know?
My spiritual needs usually revolve around finding a decent cup of coffee before 8 a.m., but I'm open to expanding my horizons. Ethiopia and Jamaica, huh? That's quite the pairing. I'm already picturing ancient scrolls and reggae rhythms. Let's start with Ethiopia, a country that practically invented old-school spirituality.
The Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church is incredible, with traditions going back centuries. Imagine the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela carved right out of the earth. Ooh. It's not just a sight, it's an experience that makes you feel like you've stepped back in time. I'm certain that our listeners who visited would agree that the sense of devotion there is palpable. It's like the air itself hums with prayers.
Or maybe it's just the sound of exhausted tourists trying to climb those rocky paths. But seriously, the Lalibela churches are quite astonishing. Wow. And let's not forget the strong Islamic presence, especially with communities that trace their roots back to the very early days of Islam. Ethiopia truly is a mosaic of faiths, isn't it? It's not often you find such deep historical ties for both. For someone looking for a profound religious experience, Ethiopia offers layers.
Speaking of profound experiences, Ethiopia also holds a special place for Rastafarians who revere Emperor Haile Selassie. It's a fascinating connection, spanning continents. Oh, it's like the country has spiritual magnetism drawing people from all corners of the globe. I wonder if our listeners have had any profound spiritual moments in these places, you know? Like just walking into a place and feeling something special.
Or if they've tried to explain the concept of spiritual enlightenment to a customs officer. That's a story I'd like to hear in the comments section on YouTube. Anyway, let's hop across the Atlantic to Jamaica, a country that also pulses with spiritual energy, though perhaps in a more vibrant, rhythmic way. While it's largely Christian, Rastafarians truly defines its unique spiritual landscape.
Oh, Jamaica, where the vibe itself feels like a prayer. Ooh, Rastafarians with its focused love and a natural way of life has such a powerful cultural impact. You see it everywhere, from the music to the colors. It's not just a religion, it's a philosophy that permeates everything. It's almost like a constant, gentle hum of spiritual awareness, right?
Yeah, a hum that occasionally involves some rather potent herbal supplements, shall we say. But yes, the Rastafarian movement originating right there in Jamaica has given the world a unique perspective on spirituality, social justice, and connections to nature. Wow. Beyond that, you'll find a lively mix of Christian denominations, all contributing to the island's spiritual fabric. They're very active, very community-focused.
And that's what's so beautiful about both countries, isn't it? The sense of community around faith. Oh, whether it's the ancient congregations in Ethiopia or the vibrant church gatherings in Jamaica, there's a strong emphasis on shared belief and belonging. It's not just personal, it's collective. I really admire that. It warms my heart.
I suppose even I can appreciate a strong community, especially if they're sharing coffee. But really, both offer distinct paths for spiritual seekers. Ethiopia with its ancient, deeply rooted Christian and Islamic traditions, and Jamaica with its lively Christian scene and the global influence of Rastafarians. It's a good reminder that spirituality isn't a one-size-fits-all thing. Wow!
Exactly. So, whether you're looking to connect with thousands of years of history or the more contemporary, vibrant expressions of faith, both Ethiopia and Jamaica have so much to offer. If you're planning your own spiritual quest, remember to check out Jet.fi for some amazing travel deals to help you get there.
And while you're at it, hit that like button and subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss our next deep dive into where to find the best coffee, which, let's be honest, is my religion. Both countries show that faith can take many forms, from the solemn reverence of ancient sites to the joyful rhythms of a spiritual community. It's almost enough to make me consider a pilgrimage myself. Almost.
Our current topic, we compare social equality, respect for minorities, and diversity into countries. I just love thinking about how many different threads weave into a nation's fabric. Like, take Jamaica. Their motto, out of many, one people, it just sings to my soul, you know? Ooh! It's such a vibrant picture of different cultures, African, European, Chinese, Indian, all blending into something uniquely Jamaican. Wow. You can feel that spirit in their music, their food, everything. It's like a giant, joyful potluck where everyone brings their best dish.
Out of many, one people. Sure. Sounds lovely on a postcard. But I've been to a few potlucks that ended with someone arguing over who brought the better jerk chicken. While Jamaica does a decent job on the surface, you still find plenty of class divisions, and let's not pretend there aren't underlying racial currents. Ouch. It's not all sunshine and reggae, Mira. And speaking of unique threads, Ethiopia has its own tapestry, but that one's got a few more knots and frayed edges.
Oops. Oh, come on, Leo. You always find the tiny dust specks on my rainbow. But you're right. Ethiopia has such an incredibly ancient history, with so many different ethnic groups and languages. Think about the Oromo, Amhara, Tigray, each with their own traditions. It's not just different, it's deeply, beautifully different. Wow! And the Rastafarian connection to Ethiopia. That's just fascinating, isn't it? It's just fascinating, isn't it? It's like a spiritual thread connecting to continents.
Fascinating, yes. And at times, utterly complicated. You've got distinct ethnic federalism in Ethiopia, which in theory promotes diversity, but in practice can sometimes reinforce divisions. It's like giving everyone a separate plate at the potluck, and then some start wondering why their plate is smaller. Ouch! We've seen periods of pretty severe internal conflict there, which makes social harmony a really fluid concept. And for the Rastafarians, while Ethiopia is a spiritual home, it's not always Ethiopia is a spiritual home.
Wait. Reese, I want to add something there. You're right about the complexities, but isn't it incredible that despite all those historical challenges, Ethiopia has maintained its independence and its distinct identity for so long? Wow. I mean, that resilience itself speaks volumes about a certain kind of unity, even if it's a hard one. And for Jamaica, well, you bring up the issues. Rastafarians originating there and then spreading its message globally, that's a huge contribution to diversity, isn't it?
It absolutely did. And that's where things get interesting. Rastafarians' journey in Jamaica, from a marginalized group facing discrimination and even legal challenges to becoming a powerful global cultural force, that's a story of minority resilience, all right. But it also highlights that social equality isn't just about what's on paper. It's about what our listeners think about this. If you think this is wrong, please let us know in the comments on YouTube. And speaking of what's on paper, Jamaica's stance on certain LGBT rights is still pretty conservative.
Oh, well, that's a fair point on LGBT rights, and definitely an area where progress is needed everywhere. But you have to admit, both countries have such a powerful cultural presence globally. I mean, Ethiopian coffee ceremonies are about community, and Jamaican reggae is all about peace and unity, right? Ah. It's almost like their cultural exports are trying to teach the world a lesson about harmony, even while they're still figuring things out at home. It's like gee was I saying no.
I'm certain that our listeners living in either country would agree with me when I say that while the cultural exports are fantastic PR, the daily reality can be a different brew. Ethiopia's ongoing internal issues, for example, continue to pose significant human rights challenges for various groups, making social harmony a constant aspiration rather than a settled state. Ouch! It's not just about celebrating diversity, it's about actively protecting everyone within that diversity. That's a harder sell than a diversity.
You're always so good at cutting through the fluff, Leo. But even with all the challenges, both countries have a spirit that really resonates. From the vibrant energy of Addis Ababa to the laid-back vibes of Kingston, there's a strong sense of identity, a feeling of belonging for many. It's not perfect, no country is, but their unique journeys in embracing diversity, even imperfectly, are important. And if you want to explore more about these incredible places, don't forget to check out Jedal Insights. Alright, Leo, I usually love all things lively and vibrant, but when I see terms like taxation and retirement, my brain starts doing a little oh dear numbers dance. But today, we're diving into something super important for anyone dreaming of a long-term stay in a new land: taxation, retirement and social rights for long-term immigrants in Ethiopia and Jamaica.
Oh, Mira, I thought your oh dear numbers dance was just your way of doing accounting. But you're right, this isn't exactly a party planning committee meeting. It's the gritty, nitty-gritty of making a life somewhere. For anyone considering a permanent move, these are the questions that keep you up at 3 a.m. like, will my pension fund magically appear? Or do I need a magic wand and a tax lawyer? Let's kick off with Ethiopia.
Land of ancient history and, well, tax structures. I heard it's a bit like a jigsaw puzzle that keeps adding new pieces. You think you've got it, then boom, another form. Ooh, for long-term immigrants, figuring out the income tax or how VAT works can feel like trying to explain K-pop to your grandma.
Well, it's not exactly a walk in the park, is it? Ethiopia's tax system, like many developing nations, has its complexities. Income tax is progressive, so the more you earn, the more they ask for a contribution. And yes, there's VAT on most goods and services. For an immigrant, understanding who needs to pay what and when often means a crash course in local bureaucracy. It's not always straightforward, and I'd say a good local accountant is less of an option and more of a life raft.
I life raft, I love that. Wow. Speaking of rafts, or maybe just a comfy armchair, let's talk about retirement. In Ethiopia, are long-term immigrants stocking their goods into a robust pension system? Or is it more of a save every penny under your mattress situation? I mean, who doesn't dream of a retirement filled with endless coffee ceremonies and zero stress?
Zero stress? Mira, you're dreaming. The formal public pension system in Ethiopia, like the Public Servants Pension Fund, mainly covers government employees. For most long-term immigrants in the private sector, it's not a guaranteed golden ticket. It's more of a you get what you put in, provided you've been putting in for a very, very long time. So, yes, private savings and investments are often the primary retirement plan. It's a DIY retirement project, but without the fun of building a bird-hat.
A DIY retirement project, ouch. That sounds less like relaxation and more like more work. But what about social rights for these long-term residents? Things like healthcare and other safety nets. Is there a hug hotline for when things get tough? Or is it a case of leaning on local community bonds?
Hug hotline. Mira, you're always ready for a warm embrace. Ah! In Ethiopia, public health care is available, but quality and access can vary significantly between urban and rural areas. For many immigrants, private health care is the preferred, albeit more expensive option. Social safety nets are generally limited for non-citizens, so community support and personal networks. If you're plantably important, it's less about formal benefits and more about informal solidarity, which, to be fair,
That's a great point, Leo. Building connections is key. Now, let's jet over to Jamaica. Oh, I picture vibrant colors, reggae beats, and hopefully less complicated tax forms. What's the scene like for long-term immigrants when it comes to taxes on that beautiful island?
less complicated tax forms. Mira, you truly are an optimist. Jamaica has its own set of rules, of course. There's income tax, known as PAYE, pay as you earn, and the general consumption tax, or GCT, which is their version of VAT. The good news is, they do have tax treaties with several countries, which can help avoid double taxation. Whoa! But like anywhere, you can't just arrive and expect the taxman to forget you exist. They'll still want their slice of the pie. Preferably with a little rum glaze.
Rum glaze on tax pie, I might actually pay that. So, if someone's planning to retire to Jamaica, soaking up the sun and the good vibes is the national insurance scheme. NIS their ticket to a carefree golden age? Or do they still need to have that secret stash buried under a palm tree?
The NIS is there, yes, and long-term immigrants who contribute to it during their working years become eligible for benefits. So if you're officially employed and paying in, you'll eventually have some public pension. But like any government scheme, it has its requirements and contribution periods. Many still opt for private pension plans to supplement that. So, Mira, no need for a secret stash, but definitely a well-managed investment portfolio, if you want that truly carefree golden age. Oops.
Ouch, my dreams of a completely free, rum-glazed retirement are crumbling. But what about social rights in Jamaica? Do long-term immigrants have access to public health care? And are there any social welfare programs they can rely on if needed? It's all about their island life benefits package, right?
Well, there's a public healthcare system. Yes, but many who can afford it also opt for private health insurance for faster service or more specialized care. As for social welfare programs, some are in place for vulnerable populations, but eligibility for immigrants varies. It's not a one-size-fits-all scenario. Again, community ties are strong in Jamaica, offering an informal safety net. It's a culture of sharing is caring, and that extends to support. Wow. So, while the government provides some framework,
Whether you're dreaming of Ethiopian coffee ceremonies or Jamaican beach retirements, it seems like having a plan and maybe a good accountant is essential. To all our listeners out there, what do you think? Have you navigated these waters? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below on YouTube. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps us keep these conversations going.
indeed, friends. And if you're trying to figure out the specifics of moving, remember to check out Jet Off AI for more detailed guides and support on these complex topics. It's not just about the fun, it's about the facts. And sometimes the facts are a little less reggae beat and a little more complex rhythm.
Hello. Fabulous listeners. Mira here. And I'm bursting with excitement for our final topic today. Well, I just spent a week trying to learn how to juggle oranges without dropping them on my dog's head. Oops. Turns out, it's harder than it looks, but it got me thinking about all the weird and wonderful interests people pursue. So, let's dive into how Ethiopia and Jamaica cater to those truly specific interests, from the utterly niche to the surprisingly common.
Juggling oranges on a dog's head, Mira? Sounds less like a hobby and more like an accident waiting to happen, or perhaps your next stand a bit. But I get your point. It's not always about the big tourist attractions, is it? Sometimes you want to find that obscure club dedicated to, say, competitive thumb wrestling, or perhaps a society for people who collect unusually shaped pebbles. Oh, for me, it's usually finding the best local coffee joint. A specific interest I take very seriously.
Aha! See, even unusually shaped pebbles is an interest, Leo. I'm certain that our listeners are already nodding along, probably holding their own prized pebble collections right now. Speaking of unique passions, let's head over to Ethiopia first. Well, when I think of specific interests there, coffee Kanoiser immediately comes to mind. It's not just a drink, it's a whole ceremony, a social ritual. Oh, you can find clubs dedicated to traditional coffee roasting, brewing, and tasting. Imagine finding your people over a perfect buna.
Oh, coffee! Now you're talking my language, Mira. Ah, my specific interest could be finding the most obscure coffee bean that makes me question all my life choices. In Ethiopia, I'd probably spend all my time to distinguish between a Uragepskin to Sidamo, then write a sarcastic poem about it. But beyond the bean, they've got some fascinating historical interests too. Think ancient rock-hewn churches, like those in Lalibela. For history buffs, it's not just a site, it's an immersive dive into centuries of faith, an immersive dive into centuries of faith into centuries of faith in.
Oh, absolutely. For the history and religious artifact enthusiasts, Ethiopia is a goldmine. Wow, you can even join tours or groups dedicated to exploring those ancient texts and traditions. And don't forget running. Whoa, Ethiopia is a powerhouse for long-distance runners. So if your specific interest is pounding the pavement, you'll find countless running clubs and training groups, especially around Addis Ababa. Imagine training alongside future Olympic champions. Oh, it's an inspiring energy that pulls you in.
Yes, the running culture is undeniable. I'd probably join. Last about 5 minutes, then declare my specific interest as observing others run while I enjoy a pastry. Now, shifting gears to Jamaica. Oh, if your specific interest revolves around music, specifically reggae and dancehall, this island is your mecca. Wow, you'll find workshops on playing traditional instruments, dance classes, and even opportunities to meet legendary musicians or new artists. It's not just listening, it's living the rhythm.
For anyone who lives and breathes music, especially those infectious reggae beats, Jamaica offers a vibrant scene. And talking about vibrant, what about Rastafarian cultural centers and community events? For those interested in spiritual and philosophical exploration, or even just healthy, idle cuisine, there are places that deeply engage with that specific interest. It's not something you just observe, you participate, you learn. And if you think this is wrong, please let us know in the comments when we upload this to YouTube.
Spiritual exploration. I suppose my spiritual journey mostly involves finding a quiet spot to finish my crossword puzzle. But yes, the Rastafarian culture is a profound interest for many. Also, for the adrenaline junkies or beach bums, Jamaica offers specific interests like cave diving, cliff jumping, or even just competitive sunbathing. You can find groups dedicated to exploring the island's natural beauty through adventures. It is pretty compelling.
Exactly. Whether it's the thrill of the ocean or the tranquility of a hidden cove, Jamaica has a specific niche for it. Wow. And speaking of food, for culinary enthusiasts, especially those obsessed with smoky, spicy flavors, you can immerse yourself in jerk cooking classes and culinary tours. Oh, it's not just a meal, it's a craft, a tradition. I'm naturally curious about what our listeners think about this. Are there any specific culinary interests you've pursued while traveling?
Culinary craft, Mira? I once crafted a sandwich using only ingredients from a gas station. Does that count? But on a serious note, the specialized cooking experiences in Jamaica are definitely a draw. So, whether your interest is ancient history and coffee like in Ethiopia, or vibrant music and island adventures in Jamaica, both countries offer a wealth of experiences for those who dig deeper. Well, it's not just about what you do and who you meet through your specific passions.
Absolutely. And discovering these specific interests is what truly makes a trip unforgettable, or even helps you decide where to live long term. Oh, you can find more details and resources on exploring these unique passions on our website, Jet Off AI. It's packed with information to help you plan your next adventure.
Yes, Jet Off AI is pretty good. Even I admit it. It's like having a travel guru who also happens to share my love for well-researched, if sometimes sarcastically delivered information.
I think we've covered quite a bit today, Leo. It's been a blast.
Indeed, Mira. It's time for me to find my own specific interest club, a quiet corner with a freshly brewed cup of coffee. This episode marks our farewell for now. After sharing all this info, we're signing off until our next comparison podcast. Please follow the Jet Off AIU channel for more episodes like this. Hit that bell icon to catch our videos the moment they drop and be among the first to listen. We'd love for you to share your thoughts, comments, and critiques below. Reading and responding to them truly brightens our day. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back soon with more. So until then, take care and see you in the next one. Warmest wishes from us.